Hey guys, welcome to the Below the Surface podcast. I got a very special guest today, Big Dave Mercer. If you're in the fishing world, definitely you know who Big Dave is. Actually, you've been a big hit ever since I advertised that you were coming on the show. Everybody's been excited to listen to this episode.
Starving for entertainment.
I guess, right?
Nah.
But Big Dave, welcome, man. I'm glad to have you finally. I know we had to reschedule last week. You know,
life happens.
Life
man.
happens,
No
but we've got to get to know each other a little bit through fishing. Same people do the tournaments and stuff like that. So I've been excited to have you on the show and kind of get to know you a little bit and know your story, man. Because that's what I'm about, man. I like to hear people's story. Success is different to everybody, but one thing I've learned that anybody that has any success has had a lot of failures and a lot of setbacks.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I really started this podcast, is to have those conversations with people. Because you start to realize, man, people are dealing with the same stuff that you're dealing with.
Oh, yeah.
Until you start having those conversations with people, you feel like you're an outlier.
We all learn to put up a good front sometimes.
You do. You feel like you're the only one struggling. And then you start talking to some people, man, like you'd be shocked on who struggles with what.
Absolutely.
Because you think they're this strong person, then you start to get to know them. Like, you deal with anxiety, you deal with depression. Like, really? Like,
even before we come on air, I mentioned social media. Everybody puts their best day out there, and it's like so fake. And I love it because life experience. I got a lot of friends all over the country from playing ball in college and just crossing paths different ways. But
right,
I get to stay in contact with them, and kind of keep up what's going on in their life. We might get to talk much, but something happens, I know, hey, I need to call them or I need to make contact.
Right.
At the same time, it's like anything; it can be used for good, and it's got its downfalls.
It is, man. It's like the same thing with AI these days. Same thing. But social media, man, like I've always tried to use it for good, but that's another reason for this show was to put stuff out there that's real. Because like you do see, like people like to just show their success and nothing else. They don't want to show that deep stuff. And like, I mean, that's what people relate to. Like it's like, how can I connect? That's where that connection is made, is really through the down and the faults of life. You're in that gutter, and we all go through it, and you go through it multiple times throughout your life. You never know when you're going to fall right back into it. That's the scary thing, but it's having faith that, when you do, you can get right back out. I got you to fill out the intake form, which I get everybody to do.
Oh, yeah.
Which I love because it gives me some little bit of information on you, because I don't know you deep like that for sure. I'm getting to know you deeper as everybody else does on the show. So tell us a little bit about you in the beginning, like you as a child. How were you as a child, and how did your childhood kind of shape you you're today?
Well, I had a great childhood. I had two great parents, and they both grew up very. My mom especially kind of hard and poor. I mean, she was backside of Jones County. Her dad died when she was 10.
Oh, wow.
40 acres, 8 or 9 kids still at home. It was a lot. So my dad, he maybe a little bit better circumstance. They were just poor folk. They didn't know they were poor. They had farmers. They had some tobacco. They had a tractor or two, and life was pretty good. My dad almost died when he was 15 from appendicitis. I found out.
Okay.
He got gangrene. It's pretty much said they give up on him. And my granddaddy raised a little sand. When they first come out with like the wound vacs, they brought one to him from Cherry Point because it was military development, and that helped, I guess, save his life. But so that was at 15. So he he was the youngest of his family, so he got baby little. I'm the youngest of mine, so
little baby little.
I may have got baby little. But mom, dad, good. They were very successful.
Okay.
Sometimes I maybe didn't know what to do with all their success. You never had money. You don't know how to handle it, but they did very well for themselves and very. Very grounded. Old country folks live outside of the thriving metropolis of Beulaville, North Carolina.
Beulaville.
They very good. It's a great upbringing. You were taught respect and right and wrong, and consequences. Thank God for a brother that's 4 years older, because he was the middle rebellious child. I got a sister that's 13 years older.
Oh, wow.
She graduated high school in the spring, and I started kindergarten in the fall. So she's 9 years older than my brother. She calls it the good old days, before we came on, because she was super spoiled by daddy.
Yeah, because
she's good.
She was by herself for a while.
Yeah, good people. But then my brother's 4 years older, and he was a rebellious middle child. So he's like, I got to be smarter than that or a lot more sneaky, and it was a little bit of both.
Yeah,
because he would try my mama,
and you just learned from both of them, right?
So I just kind of watched, and my older sister was like a second mama. She was very, Dad worked at night. Mom and Dad's their business. They worked a lot at night, and Dad was in sales and stuff a lot. He was good.
Oh.
I wish he was still around, man. You would love him. He's mentored a lot of people. He sold cookware was his main thing.
Okay.
Being a home demonstration to high end like stainless steel cookware.
Yeah.
He said I run into people fishing. One guy, we went fishing. We got to talking about it. He was like, "You came to my house when you were like 12 or 13." I used to go help you.
Yeah.
And somebody I known from fishing down in the Jacksonville area, I remembered going. Him and his wife just got married, and they bought this expensive set of cookware. And then
That's
it's like
crazy.
This is 30 years later. They're still using it. It's still, that's what he liked about it anyway. But he was very successful in that, like #1 in the world for several years. Like big time, especially in the late 60s, 70s. He did it off and on his whole life, pretty much.
Okay.
And successful, mentored a lot of people. Got it on Down East Homes and Realties. Got all those places. He's actually some kin to us, but my dad gave him his first job in sales. He thinks a lot of my dad, and he's I say every time I see him, he'll say one of my dad's little quotes. It just cracks me up. But we lost him in 2012.
Okay.
Cancer, and at 67, he's a month before 68. My mom, she just turned 82, but she's had some issues the last 3 or 4 years. Cognitive decline, wound up being a physical ailment that caused it, and they didn't catch it for a long time. She had normal pressure hydrocephalus.
Okay.
It's almost like she had too much pressure on her brain.
Okay.
And it was presenting. They thought she had Parkinson's, and they started this strong regimen, and she was just, losing her balance. She fell, broke her hip just because she just lost her balance, and things started showing up, but it took a while to get diagnosed. So, unfortunately, she's in a nursing home, or fortunately, I still got her. I get eat lunch with her, once a week when I can. But she's, but they had they were blessed in a lot of ways. They worked, they developed, and they raised a family. Dad did different sales. He did other side hustles. Man, he could have wrote a book, man.
Yeah,
I got some just awesome stories about him and my mom. And they got along well. Daddy was pretty laid back. Just nothing bothered him on the surface. I'm sure it did down deep. My mom was always kind of the worrier and nagger, a little nag. And Daddy's just like, whatever. The sun don't come up, it'll be dark tomorrow. So they mixed together, and I'm a mix of both of them enough that I couldn't have like somebody as extreme as my mom or my dad. So anyway, I grew up. Of course, I was a big guy. I was born. They brought me home from the hospital. I was born at 10 pounds, 8.5 ounces, about 22 inches long. I was in a 9-month-old outfit. They loved to tell that story and said the buttons were pulling on it and nothing's changed. I'm still big, so that was not any big day. I'm like, call you big? That's fine. I'm just like, yeah. I mean, so
now it just became a name. Now,
yeah, it's just a lot of people don't know my last name, but we grew up and later, played kid t-ball, baseball, whatever. So all we had back then was we didn't have like the little league like anything else much. A soccer club came along later, but too much running, not enough pushing and shoving for that. But started playing, got into football. My brother played. He was a good athlete. He's better built than I am. My brother, I'm 6'8", 400 plus, man. I'm way out of shape, and shot my knees down playing ball all those years. But my brother's 6'4". In high school, he's about 240, and now he's probably he's the type of guy that he's 250, 260. He'd go to the gym for 3 months and put on 10 pounds of muscle. He's just got the genetics and all. But he didn't love it, didn't see it through. He was getting recruited, to play some ball, and he didn't play his senior year in high school. He started chasing other things, I guess if I should say, and that, and just didn't have the love for it. Well, I loved it, And I started playing in 7th grade. We didn't have our middle school. We had junior high, so we didn't have 6th grade team. So I was beginning now, 12 years old, I guess, starting 7th grade, 6'4". 6'3", 290 pounds.
7th grade?
Yeah, 12 years old. And I didn't realize how big I was. I was like a big wad of chewed up bubble gum. I was soft as butter. I was a baby, My brother tormented. He was making me tough.
Yeah.
He gave me a fit, you know. So, but I, you know, looked up to him playing ball, and, you know, and so I started playing, and, you know, that big and strong, got a little bit of desire. You ain't got to be great, but I developed into it. I remember my first, you know, did weightlifting meets. I went to a JV weightlifting meet in 8th grade, and I don't know if I won it or placed third against JVs throughout the eastern part of the state. You know, so I was big and strong. Just in high school, you know, played football, smart. I mean, junior high, I was president of Beta Club. You know, I was naturally very smart. And that, I attribute that to my brother. He slacked off some. He was 4 years older. He was learning his multiplication tables. Well, he didn't do them like he was supposed to. And the teacher called my mom. So my mom's like, you know, on a Friday, she said, well, give him the test again Monday and see how he does. And I heard the multiplication tables repeated over and over for 2 days. And, you know, I was correcting him, you know. But I catch on to stuff like that. And I've always been really good in math. And you know, all my subjects I was pretty good in if I was interested at all. And through high school, played ball, got recruited to just started in 10th grade just because of my size. And then had a coaching change in junior, senior year, and really, you know, started visiting places, you know, got letters from here to Hawaii, you know, just went to, you know, come down to state, ECU, you know. I'm going to ECU, but I graduated top 10 of my class, didn't open a book hardly. I mean, I need my butt kicked. You know, looking back, I'm like, gosh, you know, you don't realize the potential because you're doing so well sometimes.
It's true.
Just like on the football field, I mean, when I graduated, I was 6'8", 350 pounds, you know, and been working out for 5 years basically.
Right.
Wasn't that fast. I'm built for pleasure, not for speed. You know, like these big boats out here. You know, but I could, you know, I could hold my own, and it was pretty strong, and did what I was supposed to do. Biggest thing, just be a good person. You know, what I was taught to be, and so I started finding a real identity in football. So wound up going to ECU. I didn't get a scholarship. I weren't quick enough, and I knew, you know, I worked hard, but I just weren't, you know. But I had to go there and prove myself. So it really meant something to do that too. Not only just to last through preseason, because man, we would weigh in and out. We have 2 morning practices and 1 in the afternoon. After 2 morning practices, we lose 15, 20 pounds that day. In the summer, it was grueling, and I stuck with it. And a couple times I wanted to come home. I could have just, you know, went to school and did it.
You're right.
But I stuck it out, and, you know, made the team gain some respect. And then the spring ball, I did really well that first year, and coming in my second year, got a little injury, and I hurt my shoulder, and it was just like I just worked my way up to getting into the rotation some. You know what I'm saying? You scout team, and you get into the rotation, and you turn some head, you know. And I wasn't great, but I was holding my own to get some guys that played in the league, you know. And, and it was getting some attention, so I was like, things are coming together, and landed funny on my shoulder during a preseason practice, and it's kind of like you just kind of get pushed to the back of the line, and then, you know, the next few months of just trying to work my way back. Already started out behind the 8 ball, and man, and failure happened. You know, I couldn't compete there, and I realized it, and then started messing with me mentally, and depression and worthlessness, and I built my whole identity around that. All my friends in college, you know, played ball together, you did what you're supposed to do together, you hung out together, you partied together, whatever. It was we were taught to be a family. I loved Coach Logan. I mean, it was tough, but I learned a lot about me, and had to go through the ringer and kind of hit rock bottom after I wound up leaving the team at the end of that season. And the next four months were grueling.
Rough, yeah.
And that's part of my faith story too. I had to kind of get to a point that, you know, because, you know, did what I was supposed to growing up. We went to church, you know. I love Jesus, you know. Asked me, baptized, you know, You know, I knew it. I knew the story. I knew it all. You know, I knew it. And I checked the boxes of everything. From, you know, I compare it to like Legos. You can build stuff. Some people can. I can't. But they build stuff with Legos, and they make awesome masterpieces. I had all the pieces, but it didn't have the base wasn't like it should have been, so it could never stand on its own. So it had to be taken apart and rebuilt by somebody that knew what they were doing. And if the Lord knows us in and out, He designed us for built in His image. He's intimate with each one of us. And I come to that point in January '98. I did continue playing ball. I went up to Chowan College up there in Murfreesboro. It was Division III. They'd been Division III like 4 years. Hadn't won 2 games hardly. And another buddy from ECU was going there. His buddy from Wofford was coming. There was a guy that went to state as a walk-on that was a man. If he was 3 inches taller, he probably played in the league, but he just didn't we all come together and had, and I needed to get away from Greenville and home. I needed somewhere away from everything to kind of find yourself. And it worked really well. We had some good friends there. We had some good times. We had the first win of the season as a 4-year school, and had some fun. It was like playing in high school again almost.
Yeah.
And that kind of direction changed, and didn't really have it all figured out. Still don't, but I knew I had a calling later in '98. And then I've been, I won't say struggling with it, but I've been trying to figure it out since, because it's like different seasons comes along with that. And from just meeting with a youth group and trying to tell them about your life and stumbling through it to standing before, a whole bunch of people and trying to convey truth to them in a way they can understand it.
Right.
Because that's the biggest thing. We talked about being relatable on the podcast. Being relatable, anybody can read some scripture, but to make it relatable and tell a story and I think God's gifted me in that. So in discovering that, you still, I think the word's the imposter syndrome. Sometimes you're up there and you're like, what am I doing up here telling these people anything? Because I'm terrible. I messed up. So you get kind of like, am I putting on a facade? Then you're like,
for sure.
Then you read the Bible and everybody God used was messed up.
Amen.
My name is David, King David, prime example, man. He was, but all of them, man, they were all broken. We all, come up short. But that's where, the scripture where it says, in our weakness, His strength is made perfect. Because if we could do it all ourselves, it would be about us and not about Him. So that's kind of a quick snapshot. But like I said, I was a lot smarter than I probably act sometimes, and good in the classroom. And that's translated into my career. Good at math and science and stuff. Stuff I read, but I don't like reading. I don't read a bunch of extra books right now. I never have. I'm just not a.
Right.
It's got to really. If it draws me, I'll sit there and read the whole book.
I'm the same way.
But some stuff just reading for fluff, I call it, and trying to, how does this make you feel? It makes me feel like I could have been fishing instead of reading. I'm going to be honest with you. I could have been doing something. I'm like, okay, cool story, whatever. But then if it's something I'm interested in,
absolutely,
like, even in ministry and stuff, when I'm reading stuff like that, it's got to grab me. And if it does, man, I'm all about it. And I decided to, my major kind of went from looking at maybe. I first started, I was into environmental biology type stuff. We grew up in Duplin County, hog farms. There's always controversy, but man, if I get involved in that industry and bridge some gaps, make some things better, that's kind of where I first started out. And then felt a calling, and I just went toward religious studies, and that was different. And then I finished my second year of football at Chowan. I actually, football was done. Parents are getting older. A few health problems a little bit showing up, and I'm like, moved back home, transferred to Mount Olive College, take actually for a BS rather than being a Bachelor of Arts, science where something's applied.
Yeah.
Take some do ministry courses, and I pretty much worked 3 days a week, went to school 2 days and 2 nights. I spaced it out, and I started working wherever, or took care of hog farms. I washed cars for a guy, had a car lot, and went to the sales with him on certain days. I actually got to the point where I was going around checking the cars at the auction to make sure they were what they should have been. A little bit of everything. Whatever I do, I helped the guy drill wells. He did well drilling service, small local guy around home, and did that. And whatever I could do, it just always worked out. There was something there for me to do, but work had to be done.
Correct.
And did all that, graduated from Mount Olive. My dad liked to joke, but I did have a BS in church ministries, and I stayed. I could have graduated a little earlier, but I stayed and got a minor in Christian education. And a lot of good courses of that weren't even religion related. Interpersonal relationships and psychology is probably one of my favorite classes I took in college, because it talked about how we communicate in different ways we communicate.
Probably the most beneficial right now too.
Man, what you say and what you don't say, how, and even now counseling couples that are going to get married or having marital problems, or things like that. It comes down to communication most of the time. We don't know how to communicate. Guys, if we'll shut down, women will, get emotional, and we don't know how to deal with that. And just, it talks about, in any situation, whether it's, between two people, between a husband and wife, work relationship, or between us and God, there's a time to listen and a time to talk.
Absolutely.
And then the nonverbals and stuff, that was really interesting. So I've probably used that a lot more than I have any of the rest, but But
well, you listen more than you talk. That's why you got 2 years, right?
yeah, I mean that's I've said it a long time. Should be. But it talked about how most of us, we listen to respond rather than listen to hear, and it was just, at that point in life I needed it, I guess, and I think everybody probably does. You can tell I'm not short on words. I feel like I've been rambling already, but yeah, I graduated in December of 2001. So my dad said I took 4 good years of college and crammed it into 5.5. But no, there was some. I mean, my grades were terrible at ECU. Football was my identity, and you get that identity wrapped up, and it's okay for that to be a good portion of your identity. But the problem with me was my identity had always been trying to be what everybody else wanted me to be.
Amen.
Even growing up being a bigger guy, I mean, I'm huge. I didn't see myself that way as much. But then, you go to school and stuff, and you don't realize it, and then you get up in age, and you start noticing, and you feel inferior in some ways, or something, different, because everybody wants, especially guys, will poke at one another.
Right.
And I always felt like I had to do something to make people accept me. I don't know why. I think a lot of people have that, and
I think a lot more people than you think.
I'd be whatever people want to be in the moment. Which, it was good that I went to church, and I was that good guy that hey, there's so and so going on. I'm going with David, and I'll go right ahead, But David weren't always,
David wasn't always
had
the
his
right
problems.
choice.
Yeah, he was doing a lot of things that he should. But even then, you always respectful toward people and try to do the right thing. And I was appreciative for my upbringing and that, but also I had that sneakiness and that I would be whatever I felt like I needed to be for everybody to say, "Good job, you're a good person, you're a good man," and I was slowly decaying internally.
Mm-hmm.
And it was there. You kind of become that dichotomy, and we still wrestle with that
Every day.
Every day.
I
got cut off on the way here. A lady run me off 70 a while ago, and Lord bless her. But I mean, it's like I had to get on the horn and almost hit the median. Then I got looked at like I'd done something wrong. I'm sorry I couldn't share that much of my lane with you, but she weren't trying to change lanes. She just wanted to ride in both of them.
She wanted
And
yours.
I travel a lot for work, man. I'm on the road. I cover 12 counties from Brunswick all the way up to Halifax, basically, and so I'm on the road a lot. And that's probably one of my most trying things is bad drivers. And
it tests your patience because there's a lot of bad ones.
Yeah, there's a lot of people not paying attention, too many distractions, not doing what we should, and that's a lot of things in life, but. Anyway, graduated from college, made it out there, wound up working here and there, working different jobs. One time I was taking care of a guy's hog farm today, and at night I was working at a pharmacy that goes to all the rest homes, nursing homes, prisons and stuff. I ran a route for them, at night, and I would work, get home 2 or 3 in the morning. I was trying to hustle, but I knew it weren't what I was supposed to be doing. Wound up getting involved a little bit at a manufacturing facility. We're doing machining. I was really interested in maybe learn that because I was big in, say, math and geometry. And
I was about to say that.
And I was there, I guess, a year, but right at the end of that year, they were going to send some folks to school, and I was supposed to go, and they kind of was like, kind of got pulled that back, and I was like, man, I ain't going to sit there and just run these parts forever. I got to learn more. I was hungry for the knowledge of it, the know-how, the science behind it,
Right.
That's what I wanted. I didn't want to be a button pusher, but I got some experience, different things, and learned a lot of things about that and quality control, while you were working. And then looking at jobs, I saw a state job opening for, they were actually doing test wells, and it was based out of Kinston, was 25 minutes from home. I was like, that'd be interesting. I've had experience drilling wells. I was there with an interview, and a buddy of mine was working for a paving company, doing the nuclear gauge compaction, cutting cores, and he saw my truck, and he called me. What are you doing? I was looking at a job, He said, what are you looking to do? And I told him, and he said, we're looking to hire somebody to go in our lab to test asphalt in the laboratory. And I was like, yeah. He was like, I'm not ready, but I know we went to school together. He's a year younger, one of my good friends. He's like, I know how sharp you were at math and stuff. He said, you can get this. And I said, well, I'll call and talk to him, because the state well drilling apprentice did. Weren't paying much, but it was a place where I feel like I could
grow.
Climb the ladder. I'd be able to get my certifications. I was really good at stuff like that, and I went in and talked to them. And the next week, I was at an asphalt plant to learn how to test asphalt, and that was I think 04. And 2 years later, I was at a different company, pretty much leading their quality control, smaller company, but same testing, the same, probably a lot more headache because you're the only one in charge of the quality control and making sure everything got done with the state and, got crews out and making sure that what they're doing. And a couple of years after that, I was designing mixes and designing asphalt because asphalt's real nerdy and there's a lot more to it. I know you guys get frustrated, especially in the New Bern area with construction, but there's a lot to it. There really is.
I'm sure it is.
We see those guys standing there. I always get the jokes now. You got a hose to shovel us, and I don't even have a shovel no more. I just ride around, But there's a lot to it, and you got some guys standing there that can't do anything except observe and notate because if something goes wrong, somebody's going to sue somebody,
Yep.
But got into that, and like I say, become quality control manager there, and stayed there till 2014. Kind of got burnt out.
Yeah.
Got married in 2010. Wife Amanda, we just had 16 years last Friday. She's a blessing, and we'll get into that in my life later. But we got married in 2010, married a couple of years, and tried to start a family, and difficulty came, I think, 2013. Had 2 miscarriages back to back, and emotional strain, marriage strain. It's just hurt, pain, disappointment. Well, I can't understand why 2 folks like you wouldn't. Well, why would that happen? Hey, man, things happen to everybody, No matter who you think's got it together, something happens.
He only knows.
We had one in, I think, April and one turned around in September. So we got pregnant twice and something went wrong. It was different each time. It was like early on, it was like, living life, 2014, I was kind of burnt out. I was wanting a life change. God was dealing with me. I knew I'd called ministry. I'd interim pastored at a church that I went to for most of the time. The pastor wound up leaving. There was some issues, and it's the ugly side because we're people, man. There's people there, and people are going to mess up. And sometimes God, I think, does that. There's a lot of people following him, not following, he was a great dude, one of my mentors. Think the word of him still.
Yeah.
Call him up today and say, appreciate him. But he had some issues. We all do. And tough time. So I had me and my wife were engaged, and I found out, things going on. I was going to be, by design, I was kind of I'd been ordained in 2003 at church. It was more of an independent church, but it had a pretty stringent set of things that had to be accomplished. And I was kind of an associate minister there or whatever. And I was there. I spoke a lot, did whatever. Went around, did a lot of other stuff at other places, wherever I was needed, man. I've always been that guy that's tried to be the Swiss Army knife. If you need me, I'll try to.
I'll try.
I'll fit, I'll make it work for you.
Right.
And so we were engaged, and here I am, for a year I was interim pastor at church, and halfway through that we got married. So that was a lot, and she moved here from Kansas, actually. It was kind of wild. We met online, dude. And people we started talking through one of those, Christian mingle or something, and neither of us thought, you're just like, okay, this person's in whatever.
North Carolina,
I'm
Kansas.
North Carolina, and it's an interesting story that God brought it together, but we just kind of pen palled almost. What better way to get to know somebody? You're not there trying to put on a show or trying to just. And it took like a month or so before I even said, hey, let's talk on the phone.
So it was like a month before you even heard her voice.
Yeah, I weren't rushing. We kind of knew each other. We kind of seen each other's pictures. Of course, the internet, you know what to expect, and it was kind of, just never, this world's apart,
Yeah. Oh, I know.
And then. That was 2008, 2009. I bought my first house, and I was remodeling it and trying to get ready to move into it. It was an older house. A buddy of mine's in the housing business. He'd done some work out, got this house, and he wanted it because his mom had some land behind it that was landlocked. So he buys this, and he cuts out a right-of-way and pretty much gives me an excellent deal. And actually, he funded the remodel, so I wouldn't have to do 2 loans because there was a lot of work that had to go on in the house. And so I'm here, kind of caught in the middle. It's his, but I'm working on it, putting time, money, energy. He's financing the big stuff himself. Thank you, God, for friends like that.
Oh, absolutely.
I can't have time and effort to say, but we did a lot of work to it. Had some people work on it. We did a lot of work. My brother was very handy. He helped me out a lot, and we so. Her and I are talking more and getting, I was like, look, I'm going to go out. We're going to meet and go on a date. Give it a shot. But this is where I'm at. can't do anything till the house closes because I cannot, laser beam focus. This is, if I leave here and go there, that's all I'm going to think about is work. I don't want that. So she actually came on vacation down in Emerald Isle in April. And, no strings attached. We're going on a date. I got a friend of mine's parents got a bed and breakfast. And got you a place there, whatever. We'll go. No expectations.
Right.
Picked her up from the airport and went on a date, and it was a little awkward.
I'm sure.
It was awkward for both of us. I mean, but we were already kind of being ourselves, and, had a couple conversations, and from Thursday or Friday, I can't remember, till Sunday when it was time for her to leave, we both hated to say bye, and finished the house, closed on it, and a couple months later went up there and met her family. Her dad was out of town. He worked with John Deere corporate, and he set up warehouses and logistics. Kansas. And he was actually in Iowa.
Oh, so okay. Iowa too.
There was weird logistics going on. So he was out of town for work because he went up and did a lot of, worked all over the world really. His last assignment was India, setting up a warehouse, and logistics stuff. Man, he's a very smart guy. And so I met her mom, met her brother. Her brother, he was a couple years younger than her, but he played ball here at Kansas State. I mean, he's a man. He's 6'6", 200 back then, 280 pounds of solid muscle, about like my brother. He's like very protective of her. We met. It was cool. We kind of bonded. And it was like I meet her dad. So closed on the house. We're going there, met him. Relationship was building. The next time I visit, I'm carrying a ring with me.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So I was like, hey, nice to meet you, sir. Can I marry your daughter? And he actually told me, he said, the Lord settled it with me. He said, I was afraid I messed it up for you when I weren't able to meet you back in June. I was like, that helped, but I was still nervous,
Yeah.
And we bonded, football. Her dad played at Purdue in the 70s. So he played football there, and her uncle worked for the Packers. So I got several years of at Christmas time we'd go up and for the Christmas party at her uncle's and go see the Packers play.
That's awesome.
And the first year we were married, they won the Super Bowl 2010. We could have got tickets, and I was like, we were fresh married, 6 months, not even a year, maybe 9, 10 months.
Yeah.
It costed so much. That was in Dallas down at and it was. I started looking it up, and to get a hotel 2 hours away, I didn't rent it for a week. We figured it up.
A Super Bowl is not cheap.
$8 or $10 grand. That's what us getting the tickets from our uncle would pretty much cost. Pretty cheap. But I was like, we could. We talked about it. She's like, I don't want to go in debt.
Right.
So whatever, But I had a big love for football, and her family does too. So kind of bonded there. And but it's been a wild story, man. But she, here she is. Never been off the concrete. I'm a redneck. She's moving to Beulaville, North Carolina. So that was pretty wild.
How'd you pull that one off?
I don't know. I reckon it was my sweet dancing skills and good looks. I don't know. I looked in the mirror a long time ago and said, big boy, you better be funny and grow a personality, But
was it always a decision was it always her here and you not there?
When we talked about it, with my job being grounded and my family, our family's scattered.
Yeah.
She had a brother that lived so far away. Her sister, I think, was still in college, and they were, family here and there, Chicago, all spread throughout the country. The majority of my family lived on 2 1-mile stretches of 2 different roads, 10 miles apart. And I was like, we talked about it, and I was like, I'm got a house here. I've put time, money, and effort, and the stuff I like to do is here. And I weren't being selfish, but, I was like, like I said, she'd never been off the concrete a whole lot. And well,
it also makes sense too. Like if you're getting married and looking for the future of a family and stuff, like you want your family close and grounded because it takes a village.
Yeah, and her parents, they're coming. As recording this, they're coming this weekend. They
awesome.
Come 2 or 3 times a year for a week. And we go up there a week, and in between, if it works out, she'll go up and spend some time. But they're retired. Her dad's retired. Her mom's semi-retired. She retired, but she still works a couple days a week. She's a physical therapist and works with geriatric patients, and just it's a different world, Iowa, and they've been in Iowa, like I said, and she moved all over the place her whole childhood, and I went to college and came home. Then moved 5 miles away. Yeah, it was different.
Yeah,
she's the oldest of her siblings. I'm the youngest, so babies get spoiled.
Opposite track, man.
Yeah, and it's worked out, and like any marriage, we've had our tense moments. And
was there any benefits of some good hunting?
Man, I hadn't hunted up there, and she's got one uncle that hunts a little bit, and he's kind of the black sheep of the family, I guess. And me and him got along great, but no. But it's different hunting out here. I used to hunt hounds and stuff, man. She never shot a gun until she met me.
Really?
First visit she had, we shot some guns with my nephew. Shot 22 or 17 or something.
That's crazy.
First day she went hunting after we were married. 10 minutes in, I go to the little corner, got a couple deer hounds, turn them out. Deer comes out, and she smoked him. 10 minutes into hunting. So she killed her first deer 10 minutes in, and she's like, it happened so fast I couldn't get nervous. So,
women have an eye for it, though.
Dude,
they really do. Like
nailed him. He was running, she nailed him right dead center.
Yeah, I was trying to sight in a rifle, I don't know, back in November, and my wife's never shot a gun before. I was sitting there struggling to trying to get it sight in, and she grabs a holding like dead center. Boom. I'm like,
yeah, she killed one a few years ago, 2015 maybe. It was like a 7-pointer, but it was 225 pounds, which is huge for our area, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
North Carolina, you don't get a lot of huge-bodied deer.
Oh, I was hoping you was going to tell me you had some secret hunting ground in Iowa.
No, that hadn't happened yet. Her brother's big into duck hunting. He's been very successful, and he's on part owner of a very well-known hunting ground out. He's in they live in like lower central Illinois, and he's big into duck hunting. I'll just say that. And Habitat Flats, he's part owner of.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah. So he hadn't asked me to go duck hunting yet. That's not my league. Yeah. I don't want to stress him. He don't get there. He's a financial guy, very high stress job. And actually he recruited me into that. Say 2014 come along, I was kind of just burnt out. I was looking a different direction. What it was is God was trying to, it may be moving me, but I was trying to move everything else, you know.
Yep.
Because I'd been through some stuff and just kind of wanted, you know, be a good Christian, be a good person, be a good church person, fill in, teach Sunday school, do whatever I needed to do to help out, but I weren't fully committed. You know what I mean? I didn't surrender, so to speak. I think that's a good word. And that's what it was looking back, but I was just, you know, he's talked with me a few times, you know, background working with my dad. I mean, I was going to people's houses at 12 years old and helping sell cookware and cleaning their kitchen. You know, I had to leave it spotless just like I found it, or better. And late nights, going, you know, if it weren't football season, you got off work, we went to work with Daddy, and you got home at midnight, and that's what you did. And we all took turns at that, and learned some things in that, learned how to deal with people, because my dad was a classic dude. He was so funny, and so he had such great ways of dealing with people. He would set up at maybe even back then when let's say the flea markets weren't so flea-ish, but he would go set up somewhere like that at a big flea market just to display it, and he wouldn't try to sell. He was wanting to get leads to go demonstrate it, because you're not going to buy, and it was expensive.
Yeah, you're not going to buy stuff at a flea market,
But he would show or pay for itself, and it would last, guaranteed for your lifetime if you passed to your kid. He liked that because he said the only problem, you get to sell one. Unless they buy it for their kids, that family's probably not buying another one unless the kids buy later. And I've run into people 50 years ago bought cookware from my dad and still using it. So that was cool. But he would go set up and talk to people, get leads so he can call them back. Hey, you want me to come cook for you? No obligation. I'll give you, in-home sales. And that was a tough job. And he had a knack for it. But that was a guy, he was talking to a lady, and this guy that had a booth down the way selling knockoff No Fear shirts or something. You know, he's like, he keeps butting in because he's wanting to hit on this lady. He was like, how much is it? And they was like, don't worry, you can't afford it. The guy was like, what? And Daddy was just trying to, it was beautiful. And he was like, what? And he finished his conversation. This guy was really trying to hit on the lady and was interrupting my dad's conversation. Dad's like, this is high-end stuff you can't afford. And he came in, well, how much, and this one's like, this small one right here is like $1,500. This is in the early 90s.
Yeah.
What you mean? The guy come back. He was like, I want that small set in cash. Dad was like, are you sure that's expensive, man? He was like, yeah, I want it. Tell me I can't afford something. He buys it. My dad in his pocket and gave him his box. And he walked off. He said, well, he showed me, didn't he? I said, yeah, man, he showed you.
He did show you.
he had that personality, though. He could say, I said Eskimo, But he always sold a good product and something where he didn't have no recourse. He didn't want people coming back and, it's always the highest quality. There was a couple companies that really he only ever dealt with. And one of his best friends, who my middle name is named after, wound up being the president of one of those companies. But Dad, like me, he wanted to stay around home. He didn't want to go to New Jersey. He would, weren't his thing. But I was actually named after one of his best friends. They worked in that industry in the 60s and 70s and 80s and right on up. And he wound up being the president of the company. And there was like two worlds colliding, when he would come down and visit my dad, old country boy, outside of Beulaville. And you got this guy that's got this big yacht that lives in Jersey. And Dad's like, nah, that wasn't the life I wanted.
No. Well, it's different for everybody, man.
It is, man. But he had, but he was a homebody and very interesting guy, man. He could write a book on stuff, just the encounters he had. But he sold that guy some cookware before that guy realized it. Weren't even trying to sell cookware that day. Just wanted to get leads.
That's a good salesman, man.
He was that way. He was very, very funny. All my friends, we always miss him. We joke around about him, but he gave me my love for fishing too. I had no idea the Neuse River had anything in it besides brim and bass. Bryce's Creek was our haven, man. Little tri-hull boat.
Yep.
50, 60. Well, we had a 55 Chrysler, and it broke down every other trip. Found out the guy was putting something in the starter in wrong. It was sheared a pin. And then my mom went with him one time. And like I say, my dad would haywire anything together. He made money, but he was tight and thrifty, and he was not a mechanic, not a farmer, and really not a carpenter. But he would just try to get by. And my mom went with him, and about every other trip and get pulled in. And he had this little tri-hull, had the stick steering on it, 14, 15 foot. My mom went with him. She's kind of, I've got a little bit of this in me. It broke down with her. On the way home, she said, go by Kinston. Go order a boat motor. Go get a boat motor on this boat.
I'm tired of messing with it.
Yeah, she was my dad was the top. He made good money, but he would go buy a used set of tires. He bought a set of tires, the new ones. He always drove minivans, for his to carry his cookware. Just worked better, and nothing better than hanging out in a minivan when my vehicle was torn up. But he oh man, where was I go? So he got that boat motor or whatever. But there was stuff like that happen. He got the tires, he went and got a used set, and he would find deals on like a set of Michelin takeoffs from a dealership that somebody wanted something bigger. But he got some one time, and I think the tires I knew was like $60, and he found some with 500 miles for $40 each or something. So he buys the $40 set and is proud of them. And the next week he plugged one of them 8 times at $5 a pop. And my mom was just shaking her head because she was the type that her washing machine or something messed up one time. And
get a new one.
She'd let him know. He's like, nah, we'll have him come work on it. He would have somebody that owed him a favor come tinker on it, and it'd last a week. And
had to call him again.
He comes home, and it's like we had like our back steps. We had the sliding glass door with 6 steps going up. It's out there on the carport. She's like, you're either going to get me a washer or you'll wear dirty clothes.
You're going to the washer, you're going to laundry.
He was like, all right. And of course, he went, and they had to spend a half a day over the last $20. He ordered the deal thing. It was always him, He'd go to a dealership and spend it all day and walk out without a vehicle. And he just did that. And it was this thing. I think he loved it. He just sat there and, we can do, my mama tells about, her and this guy, and they'd done deals before. And they're like, they were come down to like $100. And she's like, my mom's there with him that time. And he didn't like for her to go. And after about 5 hours, she said, I tell you what we're going to do. You're going to go up 50. You're coming down 50. Let's go. Write it up. Come on. It's
$100.
But they worked together, man. They gelled together.
That's a perfect marriage. That's how it works.
And my wife and I are the same way.
Yeah, we're the total opposite. Like, she's the negotiator, and I'm not. Like, the big reason I don't negotiate with people is because I don't want people to do it with me. Like, if I'm selling something, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So I try not to do the same to people. Like, my wife gets so mad. She's like, well, what'd you buy it for? What's it listed for? Well, you didn't ask for $100 off? I'm like, no. No, I didn't. Like, or the same thing, I'll buy something, and she'd be like, hey, did you negotiate? Did you get a good deal? I'm like, no. Like, he told me the price, and that was the price, like, I don't know. Like, but I think that's a good marriage. Like, it has to be two opposites, in my opinion.
Yeah, there has to be. You got to compliment one another. And one thing, You know, in the Bible it says two become one. You think about, you know, you try to put two pieces of puzzle, they've got to fit. And what you'll notice, and we even used to do I tell people this, you know, you can do like those personality profiles where you're extreme on some things in there. And what you'll find is over time, both of you will balance out. Mm-hmm. You can see it, you know, seen the research. They did it 5 years, you know, somebody got married, they did like their personality profiles, and then they did it in 5 years, 10 years, 15, and then you just see how the peaks and valleys just kind of mesh together. And, you know, that's what marriage should be, you know.
I had to learn it the hard way.
We all do to an extent.
I had to learn it hard because, like, when you're younger, you think a good marriage or something is, you know, your best friend. And then you think of your best friend, like, what's your best friend? They like what you like. They do what you do. Like, so you're thinking, like, man, I want a wife like that. Like, that'd be awesome, right? So I got it. I was engaged before I got married. I got engaged. I think I want to say 22, something like that. I mean, I dated her. I was engaged to her within like a year and a half. Just because, you know, I played a lot of sports too. When I got out of high school, I was trying to find myself, and I got into bodybuilding. So I met her at a gym, and she competed, like, you know, bikini and stuff like that. And like, so like we went to the gym together. We did all this stuff together. She liked what I liked and wanted to do what I wanted to do. Like, dude, we ended up being engaged for like 4 years. I never made it official. She ended up leaving me because of it, just because like every month, every year, I was like, man, you're following me everywhere I go. Like, I don't get no break. And then I learned that, like, hey, like, this is not what marriage is supposed to be. And like, I met my wife, and you talking about complete opposites of people. Yep. Like, I'm a bull. She is sweet, you know, just very calm. But like, she calms me.
Oh yeah.
You know, but like before, like, you know, with my ex, man, and she was kind of same personality. So like,
you both got amped up together.
Oh, get both amped together. Yeah. You're both bulls at the same time. Like, you're like, no, like, this is not going to work.
We and my wife, we've been through a lot of things, you know. But and everybody does. But one thing, when I do a lot of weddings, and the weddings I do now, you know, I have people reach out sometimes, and, you know, I'm in my church, you know, I'm there first, you know. Mm-hmm. But I have people, friends and stuff that maybe were people I've known. Now I'm getting older. Some people I felt praised or getting married want me to do the wedding. Right. I'm proud to do it, but there's a lot, you know, that goes into time. And, you know, I joke with people, if I don't know them well, I hadn't seen them since high school. You know, their kids want to get married, and they don't really attend the church. I take a chance to minister to them if I can, but I'm like, let me check my tournament schedule, because, you know, I work 5 days a week. Sundays is a super busy day, you know, at church, you know, and got a lot going on. I'm there for meetings early. Mm-hmm. You know. Then after service, we come back. We have, you know, except for during the summer, we'll have an evening service on Sunday. I'm helping, kind of hanging out with the youth more. My wife is our youth director now. But okay. I want to be that one male figure that's there with them or around, right, where they're comfortable with me. And I think I got the pleasure, one of those kids called me a couple of weeks ago, Easter weekend. I wanted to talk to me. I was afraid something was wrong. You know, my wife's like, he wants to talk to you. I'm like, he wants to get baptized. He's a senior in high. He's about to graduate, and he called me, wanted me to do it, wanted to discuss it. Well, we talked an hour, man. I was just elated. I wanted to have that comfort level that I'm not this unapproachable, you know. Mm-hmm. The stigma of, I don't introduce myself. I'm Pastor so-and-so. Very right, you know, right. I'm Big Dave, and when we get down to the nuts and bolts, I can get real with you, and you know, and you're not necessarily like what I have to tell you, but the doctor gives me some. I told you I was sick for a month, man, and I finally had to get the medicine. It didn't necessarily taste good, but it got me better. It did. It's what I needed, and sometimes we got to do that, and that's not always fun, but when you look back, it's what we're called to do. So it's a little tough sometimes, but I was glad that, you know, a kid called me up and wants me to be the one to baptize him, because we got a senior. I'm an associate pastor. We got a senior pastor. I've been an associate pastor there, I guess, 4 years, and we got another associate just coming on board. It's a decent-sized church for where we're at, you know, anywhere from 200 to 225 a Sunday. That's Beulaville too? That's between Beulaville and Pink Hill. Okay. It's out in the suburbs.
The suburbs.
Yeah, it's growing, and that's where I'm called to be at this season in life. We've been members there since 2012.
Okay.
We left the church, and there was all the issues, and I wound up being interim, and we stepped back from there. And for a year, we didn't really have a home church. We went to different churches. I had friends in ministry, and I don't know, I needed some time to take a breath and heal. And every time you went somewhere, they were like, we need you here to do this. And I'm like, it was a couple of miles from where I actually grew up. Knew a lot of the people there. Knew most of kin to half of them probably, but it was like I didn't have a close relationship with them. But the pastor there has been very influential. He's actually a full-time missionary now, and but he was there for like 20-some years, and he's only 10 years older than me.
Wow.
He answered the call and actually grew up in that church, and I pastored him for over 20 years, and he was like, and he knew some things that, I'd been through a rough patch with, church stuff, people stuff, and he's like, let's talk sometime, man. Just get up with me, bud. Glad to have you here. He weren't pawing at me. He was more concerned about how I was doing than what could I offer, how could I be used, you know what I mean?
Right.
Being used by God's important, being used in part of your church is important, but basically the relationship ain't right. And with God, you've got to have everything settled, and you're going through a season of hurt. You got to heal first. You can't pour from an empty cup. Can't do it.
I've tried it for years.
It's tough. It don't work with you. And
it catches up to you eventually.
Everybody winds up thirsty and ill.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And I think, your story it's powerful, but and I've seen a common thing with people, because the same thing with my life is, and I really don't know how to put it. I think about it all the time, and I think a lot of stuff starts at a childhood with your calling, and I don't think you're really aware of it.
Absolutely.
I didn't grow up in church a lot, but my dad did, and the reason I didn't grow up in church a lot is my dad's dad was a Southern Pentecostal preacher.
Oh yeah, that's where I come. Two uncles, and
so hard school. They were very strict. My dad ended up running away when he was 13 because of it all.
Yeah.
My dad's mind was always, the way he lived his life and the way his dad preached was, he was no good. It was no saving him. It was done.
You can't be good enough.
It was done, and that's kind of how they preached it back then.
I get it.
It was but my dad was very educated with the Bible because he grew up listening, and his dad poured into it. So
and you don't even realize it.
But I did, and I absorbed it. But I was always that kid. I would always, and I don't even know why, because we didn't grow up in church. But I would always go to my dad and ask Bible questions. And stuff about God. Mm-hmm. And brother never did it, and nobody else ever did, but I would always, and he would. My dad still tell you to this day, where he thinks he's going.
Yeah.
It's sad.
It's sad, yeah.
But he'll still pull out the Bible and teach you it, because he knows it. Yeah. But I was always, I didn't know it at the time as a kid, but, I've always had that relationship with the Lord in a very different way than most. I've struggled, and I get a lot that from my dad too, is I struggle finding a church.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't grow up in a whole lot, and what I do know is from my dad.
And all you hear is negative.
It's all you hear is negative.
That's
so
all you hear, that's
you don't know how to think, because there's the landscape of church now. It's all over the place. You got this very strict, and then you got over here where it's party.
And somewhere in the middle.
It's somewhere in the middle. So we struggle finding that. We're trying to get, that's our biggest goal, is really getting in church. But I've been blessed enough to, I did have my father in that way of being able to have the Lord without being in the church. And I've kind of built my life around that, is building my own group of people. It's our own, in our business we do it. Yeah. Like you said, the guy called you the other day to baptizing. I have an employee that's been with me for 10 years and very alcohol, drugs, you name it, just like this. But he's become like a brother to me, He's probably like 10 years younger than me, so I call him my little brother. But he randomly sends me a picture. I mean, he's been in prison. Been fired. I've had to fire him and then bring him back. It's been like a whole roller coaster. But he was baptized, and now he's the lead in his worship with a guitar.
That's awesome.
And it's a warm feeling because I've talked to him over all of these years of like where he needs to be, where you need to go, how to use your talents with the guitar, like because his story is he grew up in church. His aunt raised him in church, very strict in church. Like he was in worship as a kid, as a teenager, and then he went into the military.
Worlds collide. Leave Beulaville and you can go to Greenville where you ain't been really sheltered. Then you turn around and it's called, and we had a fancy term for that when I was in college, but I can't think of it right now. Something about reality testing when you hit the real world and you're not around your parents. You're not it's a new thing. And man, little boy say I got a bad way with the brown liquor myself. I raised in a home that didn't drink at all, and my dad just never did. I just seen him take a drink by accident one time. He just weren't into that because he had other people he saw it destroy him. He was just and he was too tight to buy.
Too tight to buy it anyways.
He plenty of money, but the tight was. But he was.
You can't negotiate people liquor.
But he was, and we just didn't do that. My mom was raised, very strict, very poor, very hard, and she had a brother that died really young. And the doctor told him, if you keep partying like this and running around like this, you're going to. He did. He died. Her dad died from a stroke when she was 10 and a half, and he high blood pressure and stuff. The family were hard workers back then. Their diet probably wasn't the best, but I mean, they were looked lean and mean from the outside. But you don't ever know what's going on. And he had that one out of her kids. She had two different preachers, and one that was hey, and I mean, he was like you say, in and out of trouble all the time, and he basically alcohol. He died. He died at a very young age at that. And it's funny. He's got a son that's my cousin. And I first met him because he's a little older than me, but he went up with his mom. This type of thing. When his dad died, he was like, "Well, we ain't got to worry about him no more. We didn't have a relationship." You know what I mean? But we actually around '98, when I got saved and gave my heart to the Lord, and around that time, our paths crossed, and we wound up going to church together before it was all said and done. It was pretty wild. We had that relationship we didn't have when we were younger because one, we were miles apart. Family weren't that close. Things happened, and his mom raised him. He had a stepdad, whatever, and but later on, we all kind of come full circle, and he's come a long way. He actually had a stroke pretty young too, and about 50 years old, and he's recovered. He does body work and stuff, but it's just it could have been it, and he thought it was, and we never know, and but it's just seeing things come full circle like that, but. Going back as far as my story, 2014, I was looking for a change. My brother-in-law, he was working for a big, retirement financial group, and he'd been doing it since he got out of college. Kind of did the college course with that, where he was mentored in, and he was doing very well in it. And he talked to me about it, and I was like, I'm ready. Maybe I'm ready for a change. And so I kind of went a complete change. Trying to change.
Yep.
Circumstances instead of changing me.
Right.
Been through some, like I say, a couple of tough years with miscarriages, and my wife's going through it herself. What's wrong with me?
Yep.
Depression. She gained weight. She had physical problems because of that, and it was presenting. And I'm like, I need to change, and so I took that route and went and got my insurance and securities license, did the mentorship and all this stuff, and. In the large bastion of Duplin County, here I am trying to start a retirement, firm, and there's already a couple there within this firm, and they're great people, great company. Nothing wrong with it, and I helped a lot of people while I did it. I did it about 3 years. Empty. I was reading Ecclesiastes the last few days a little bit, and where he said, "I've tried everything, pretty much under the sun. I've tried everything that man could do." And I find it vanity and grasping at the wind.
Yep.
And that was, and I was miserable, and my performance wasn't the greatest, but I had a lot of households. But there's a lot of, you get a lot of people. You got to have people with money that's investable, and you get farmers and things like that. There's some people, and like I say, I help some people. I got some people today that thank me for helping get their stuff set up and readjusted, and because they,
it was a season.
It was a season, but at the same time, it was struggle financially because, you start out at the bottom, you got to work your way up, and you got to have big money turnover. And it's not like people, they retire from up north and move to New Bern and bring their. It's nice to have a local guy deal with their stuff, but they don't move to Duke County very, very little.
Yeah.
You got farms and stuff that have to keep generational wealth and reinvested to keep from, so. But I was hoping maybe an office would open up in a nearby bigger town, but that weren't in the cards, and I was miserable. And we'd gone to some friends of ours, and they're out of Texas. They do missions work, and that's who my friend kind of does mission work alongside now, my former pastor, and they do all over the world. He drills water wells in Africa.
Oh, wow.
This guy, and then part of the year, and then he got a very great story. It's just incredible to see what they do, and, they go over there and predominantly Muslim countries, and they're bringing life, and they got folks that serve under them who are basically out in areas where they would probably be killed if they knew they were there. And
absolutely.
And I'm, I got a crank in my neck, and I want to go to church on Sunday. You know what I'm saying? It's just, but we went to a marriage seminar they had. It's like, they call it Couples of Destiny, and they come and they do it, and they did it down at Fort Caswell. We participated and enjoyed it. We were getting involved in church, getting settled in that church after a couple of years. And the next year, and we participated, and it was great. And, recommend it. It was one of those things where it just went open. They would tell pastors in our area that were kind of associated with them. And, hey, what's some couples in your church that you feel like, maybe called to serve in certain areas? And, and they would challenge that, and just by invite, kind of. So it weren't like, hey, just come to this thing, and have it. It was, you had to be asked, because it was very specific, and it was deep, and it was good. We enjoyed it. The next year they had it again, and I was asked, and I love to cook. I was asked to go serve. Go, absolutely. Yeah. So we go and we do the meals. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning. We do 3 meals. And, it's a big undertaking. About 70 people, 70 to 80, and you're doing, Friday evening you do dinner. They all kind of arrive, and they have a session. Then, Saturday you're up early and you're making breakfast. Then by the time you finish it, you're starting their lunch, and then the dinner. Then you kind of do a breakfast for them on Sunday, and I was there and helping, doing stuff, frustrated, kind of ill, kind of
right.
with life, but I was there to serve. I mean, it wasn't that. It was just
just everything.
And when I do stuff, I'm very OCD. I'm very in quality control in some form or fashion pretty much my whole career, regardless if it was asphalt or even in a machine shop, and I want things in a certain order, in a certain way, and even that. And I was kind of get bossy. My wife says I get really bossy sometimes when it comes to stuff, but I do, and I know I do. But there's a reason. If I have to do something, it's for a reason, and I got a purpose, and it's got to be this way. And here's why. If I explain why to you, you can understand.
Right.
That's kind of the way I come. I want everything laid out. So I'm not the easiest to always get along with. And there was a couple other couples that are helping us, and I had to lead, and I was like trying to tell them do this, do that, and it's hard to relinquish certain things.
Yeah.
The worst thing I want everybody to have a great experience. But anyway, we were we get done in the evenings. They would be having their they would do little sessions during the day, have plenty of free time. Then in the evenings they would have another chapel-like session, worship service type thing with some challenging different speakers from all over the place come in. And the Sunday morning we finished up. They pretty much did their breakfast. We had like leftover breakfast casserole from the day before. I heated it up. They had yogurt, continental breakfast, kind of, here's what we got. If you want something, I'll fix it. But so we got done early, got everything cleaned up, and we go catch the last, I don't know, that morning session, probably an hour and a half. We catch the last 20 minutes of it. And I'm like, I'm hearing them talking. I'm like, man, that's good stuff, man. It was speaking to me, and I'm just like, I'm not here to be a part of this. I'm here to help, be a support,
Right.
At the end, he was like, kind of, this is one of those guys that when he speaks, it kind of makes you nervous almost because he's very gifted in certain ways, and he can read your mail, so to speak, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Yep. And he's not boastful in that, but he's very, he's one of these guys. I mean, he's very in tune, and they were having their altar service, and we kind of slipped in the back, not to disrupt. And there to help minister if we needed to. He was like, there's some of you here, you're not where you're supposed to be, and you know it. You're chasing after the wind, and said a few things, and I'm like, man, that's good stuff right there. And he's talking to somebody. He was speaking to me, but I'm not. I'm just kind of. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like,
looking behind you.
No, I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, that resonates, man. Somebody's going through it just like I am.
Right.
That's the way I was feeling, man.
Right.
That somebody's going through it. I'm not the only one. It made me feel better.
Right.
Somebody else is going through the same. In a few minutes, and he called me out by name. He said, "You ain't just here to cook, buddy." He said, "God's calling you out." And I was like, "Yes, He did." And it was kind of. Not that I hadn't been apart, not that I had been, but I wasn't where I needed to be. That's the thing, was we get to a place where we're, satisfied, where we're just, and not to go on to, I don't like to say religious, but on the faith side, when it comes to being a Christian, if you look at the word salvation, it's I've been saved, I'm being saved, and I will be saved. It's an ongoing process in our life in the Bible, even the verse that says, people, this can be real controversial when it says, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. We don't understand the English word for salvation, and what it really means is
correct.
Yeah, once you give your heart to Christ, you are absolutely saved. But there's a process that goes on with you that never ends. When Paul says we go from glory to glory. We go through seasons, and we should be drawing closer through those seasons. Some are great and some are bad, but we got this, and churches have been terrible about it the last 30 years about this concept. We just want to get somebody to acknowledge Christ as Savior. And we're like, we got one. And it's like, no, it starts there. You were talking about your friend a while ago, and some of my mentorship come to me. Everybody needs a Paul, and everybody needs a Timothy.
Oh, amen.
We need somebody just mentoring us, and we need to be. The Bible, Jesus said, and I preached it. It's so funny. I preached it last Sunday. I weren't supposed to preach last Sunday, but I got called to go preach at the church at Oriental. I filled in there for 3 years. Once a month at least. They didn't have a pastor. I weren't called there, but I'm going to be here to help support you. God done some good things and was able to help with a lot, but I weren't called there. But I can come in and be that Swiss Army knife. I can come bring you a message, and I preached on it. Go and make disciples is what the last thing Jesus told him. He didn't say go and check the list and make sure you get your roll up or anything. Make disciples. Discipleship is a process. Mm-hmm. It says make disciples. That's a verb. It means there's work involved. It means that I'm going to have to deal with people, and people ain't always easy to deal with. People are people, man. You deal with a lot of people. I deal with a lot of people. Some people, I'm extroverted, very much so, outgoing. Hey, I like people, but after a while, my people meter's kind of, and I think it may be with age. I'll be 49 in November, but man, some days I just love to see my recliner and not to deal with people. Or it used to be go, 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 and I'm just like, whew. And now it's like making disciples. I mean, you got to invest in people. You got to lead them, and you got to still be led because none of us have arrived, and we need that. We need that, you were talking about it, your friend earlier. We need that communion with each other. You said, you don't have a home church, but church has been pretty messed up, but church is a people, not a place, and people are going to have problems. People are going to disappoint you. People are going to hurt you. People are going to, even discipling people, man, they're going to slip and fall.
Oh, man.
But I was thinking this in the way here, man, grace is something that God offers us so much. Jesus Christ offers us so much grace, and we're short on grace. We're in a fast-paced society. We got the internet. There's very little grace on there. Cancel culture, I mean, that's what they call it now. Mm-hmm. There's no grace offered. There's no, and grace is what we need, and that fellowship and grace is, we need that. We need that group, and I see more of that. We're doing some groups at our church. We're calling, growth groups, small groups, whatever you want to call them. It's not a cliche. It's, it's the way churches were formed back in the days when you spent time with one another and you cared, and it don't need to be a big group, but there needs to be, the biggest thing we don't like in faith is accountability. Mm. We're free Americans. I can do what I want. You can't judge me. You read that word again. Yes, we are. We're very spoiled, and it hurts our faith because if we don't like something, there's a church on every corner, we can jump to the next one. If we get challenged, I don't like that. Just like me, instead of fixing me, I'm going to try to fix everything but the problem. I'll relocate. I'll change jobs. I'll change churches. Some people change wives or girlfriends, hobbies.
Because they're chasing comfortable.
And what I found,
you ain't supposed to be comfortable.
No, there's times, man, there's nothing more comfortable than the Holy Spirit, and there's sometimes nothing breaks me than you know, it's almost like you want to avoid. I remember long after I got saved, man, I made some decisions that weren't, you know, Christ-like, did some things that weren't Christ-like, and they weren't nothing terrible. If I was to tell you what they are, you'd be like, pfft.
Right.
But for me, it was because I felt like I failed, you know, and I knew I'd done something to hurt that fellowship I had with Christ, that had given himself for me, and I'd given myself to him, and it weren't nothing big, but man, it broke me. It was different then. And, man, I could, and it's almost like I didn't want to go to church because I knew where folks are gathering in his name. He says his presence is going to be, there's a presence you know that you can't describe it any other way, man. I remember being gathered like that, and I just didn't want to gather because I knew I was, you know, and I was just like, gosh, man, you know, but it's not that, oh gosh, man, that he's condemned me. That worked out, you know, that fear and trembling means a healthy reverence for a God that created the universe. I think about Job when he was complaining to him, and God said, well, where were you when I put the stars where they're at? Where were you when I set the oceans where they can only come here and there, and where I can do that? He listed all that. It's like, you know, sometimes I need to be humbled, but that presence, I almost didn't want to be around it because I knew. But there's also that grace that says, all right, you know, just like compares him to a father. It's like, okay, son, did you learn anything? I told you not to touch the stove. Did it burn you? Does it, you know, feel, yeah, you know, you're disappointed in yourself because you feel like you disappointed me. Okay, let's get up and start over. We don't get that in society. It's hard to get it in church sometimes.
Well, talk about that because you just said father.
Yeah. Father
figure. And it's Jesus or a man in your life or your actual father. I was having this conversation because, like I told you, I'm not in a church and I haven't been in church a lot of my life, but I listen to preachers all the time. You know, if I'm working out or anything, that's usually what's on. I'm listening to some kind of sermon. I got some ones that I really like to follow. And one thing that I really caught on to, and I think it's a society issue, and it didn't, because it started in the church. It's the lack of men standing up. And I think women have ran church and held the church down for way too long, and it's caused a lot of issues. I got a famous preacher that I like to listen to all the time, and he literally says it in a lot of his Sunday sermons: is men don't leave your balls at the door.
I think I probably
you can bring them in. You can bring them in.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Because women have held them. The women have been the one praying.
Shout out Joby Martin.
There you go.
I like him.
Yeah, I love him. I loved it. I mean, he's a man's man.
That's what we need, man.
And you need more of that. And, like, that's opened a lot of doors for me, too, because I love listening here. And like I said, we talked before the podcast, having conversations with other people, because you realize their struggles and their failures, and then you see people like Joby Martin and who they are. You look at him, he ain't a preacher. If you just look at him, no, he's not a preacher. Like, you would never guess in a million years that guy's a preacher. But he's amazing, and the work that he's doing, he's outlining a major cause in society and church that people have not been wanting to talk about. You know, because
I'll say it, we feminized society, and the church got it too, because men was like, oh, that's the women's stuff. We'll handle the business meeting and be the deacons, but they did nothing else. There was no spiritual leadership in the home. That Barna does a survey. This was several years ago. If a man, you know, follows after Christ, there's a 94% chance that his whole family will.
Absolutely.
If the mother winds up having to take the lead role in that, it was like a 15% chance. And if neither parent really went after it and the child kind of initiated, it was like a 5% chance. And that was years ago, and it's probably worse now.
Oh, it's 10 times worse now. Yeah, I can promise you it is.
I mean, we made church something it shouldn't be. It really have. It became a social club. It became I'm better than you. It became, you know, whatever it was. We just tried, and we do this in life, and not you know, thinking about coming and talking here. There's a lot of stuff crossed my mind, but I'll say this: the Scripture has said, you know, the Father God has made Jesus Christ both Lord and Savior. It's easy to call him Savior. Calling him Lord means he has lordship over me. It means he's in charge, and it's not, and that clashes with our American, especially this day and age, mentality of I'm free and I do what I want.
Amen.
I don't have to be accountable to nobody. Tupac said, "Oh, only God can judge me." That ought to scare the dickens out of you, because he's a holy God. He's in charge. He created this universe, and he isn't going to judge us all one day. The Bible talks about judgment as, I can't judge. No, if you read it on out, it's like, you judge with a righteous judgment to hold each one another accountable in love. We like to hold others accountable because it makes us feel better about our shortcomings, because I'm not as bad as that person, yada, yada, yada. We check our boxes, and we're not surrendered to Christ. We're surrendered to a religion around Christ, and we'll probably go to heaven because we give our life to Christ and accept his salvation, and it ends there. The discipleship comes in when we challenge people to grow, and we are being mentored by someone, and someone's mentoring us, and we do our best, and we lock arms. Man, I went back when I had the Fire Club tournament. I missed it because me and a group of men from church, I hardly ever go out of town with them, but we went down to Mississippi, and there was a group, about 15 men, man, and God did some incredible things because it was men. There was a challenge there. Like I said, to be a man. We're watching Gunny B. He has that group we get together once a month. Mm-hmm. I've been trying to go. We're following the Joe B. Martin teaching on be a man. And the church is crying out for manhood, but I think society is, and they don't realize it because it's been feminized. You hear toxic masculinity, everything. I'll go ahead and say it. For the last 20 years, you turn on a sitcom on TV, the dad or the man is always some goofy dorky that don't move his butt from a hole in the ground, and he's, and that's what it's been portrayed. And sadly, it's taking on his reality to where, but you take a man that'll stand up and he stands on faith and what's right and truth, nobody's going to challenge that because they know they're dealing with a man. That toxic masculinity term that's been thrown around, I always like it when, I don't like it when hurricanes come through, but like if a hurricane or after something happens, you see these guys out here putting wires together in chest deep water, and God bless them, trying to get power back to us. And it was like, I don't hear any complaints about the toxic masculinity right now.
Well, God uses ways to remind people.
Yeah.
Some people just don't open their eyes to it, but he is reminding you.
Absolutely.
How it's supposed to be. Like you said, the church is crying out for it, but the world is desperately crying out for it.
And you're seeing a lot of, I'll say, revival or move of God taking place amongst young people, and even our local schools and stuff. We've had a big FCA thing where it's been real. I was an FCA because that's what you're supposed to do because you're a good person.
Right.
There's FCA now. They're going to camps and they're baptizing guys. It's real. It's not just a club you belong to. And they were at our church. I weren't there this past Sunday, but we try to help send them to camp because it's not cheap. But man, we've seen a blossom in our community. Something that happened in our community years ago, back in the early 2000s, this lady challenged our local pastors to get together and pray together from all denominations. The church on every corner, it's out in the country. Whereas, the church that I grew up in and the church I go to now, one was an offshoot of the other because there was a creek that run between them and you couldn't get there when they started. You know what I mean? It was hard for people to take the mule that 1.5 miles or 2 miles,
Correct.
Across the creek. The water was high, they couldn't go, so it grew and they got an offshoot, that's great. But that mentality ain't the same now. You got this, everybody can go anywhere and be anywhere. In a 20-minute ride, you can be anywhere. When I was a kid, going to Kinston was a big all-day affair, and it was 25 minutes away.
Yeah, right.
I hardly ever came to New Bern except when I was real young until we were fishing. It seemed like it took 2 days to get to Bryson Creek, the merchant store. But churches need to, we've got to get back to that being who we're supposed to be in Christ, and not just and it's a challenge to do that because traditions are good. I've got no trouble with traditions until you start worshiping a tradition over a move of God. You better get in line with what he's doing now, not what, You can't relive the past. If we can just get that same speaker from 20 years ago when we had that move of God and sing those same 3, 4 songs, well, what's he got? His mercies are new every day. He's fresh. The world's changed, technology's changed, things are getting around, but also at the same time, he's God and he don't change. But however, he is present through all of it. Even from way back then till now. He
all presents himself in different ways than he did.
And I heard some friends of mine that do a podcast that I listen to. I've gotten to know them a little bit. They're in Alabama, but they put out a challenge to pray to God if you're real for people that are wavering. I want to encounter you. Do something where I can't deny it. And they said, don't pray that unless you mean it, because your life might get turned upside down. But if it took my life, me getting stripped of everything, I felt like the world was, I felt, honestly, if you're going to be real and raw, I felt like the world would be better off without me in it. That's where I was at.
Been there.
Woe is me, but I couldn't be that way. I mean, my mama loved me too much. I couldn't do that to her. I didn't care about me. I could care less. You want to talk about real and raw?
Well, if you want to talk about that, my mom found me at 14 with a shotgun in my mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Been there, done it. So
think back, man, and I was at a point where I said, if I try that, I'd probably mess it up.
Oh, I would definitely.
You know what I'm saying?
I'd be a half my face.
I'd even mess that up. That's where I'd be a burden on them. Then they had to deal with that.
What happened, man?
I'm glad we're here to laugh about it, but there's a lot of them that don't make it past that.
They don't, and people don't.
And I hate that. And as much hope as Christ gives, if the world ain't getting hope, it's not because Christ didn't offer it. It's because we as his people are not surrendered to him to go out and show it. We're about our for no more, and as long as I can, if we can make it through, because I heard this, man, it's so crazy in the last week, even though we canceled, I've heard a couple of quotes that stuck with me. Said if he can't make us bad, he'll make us busy. I think Joby Martin might have even said that on the thing we watched.
Sounds like something he would say.
I mean, yeah, but if he keeps me so busy, and that's why I said, you asked me some stuff, you know what, I said priorities. It ain't that my priorities necessarily out of whack, but there's so much that you can do a whole lot of good stuff and do a mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
You can shave it back and you can do what really matters and prioritize and do it well.
Correct.
Do it well. If I go fishing, I want to do it well, even if I strike out. But I'm not going to go half-cocked. I'm talking about going bonita fishing tomorrow, and I hadn't been on my boat. I spent a week, I've bought lures, and I've done all these leaders, and I've tried on, and I've done, stuff I wouldn't ordinarily do, because when I get out there, I want to do it well. And we might catch fish, but I want to do it well. I don't because I didn't plan out. I don't want to get out there and my boat not crank.
My wife gives me a hard time all the time. Just why are you taking so
OCD?
Why are you taking it so serious? I'm like, it is serious.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just. But you said something earlier about. I think everything that we've talked to, with people falling away from the church, people falling away from living the right way. I think it, in my opinion, all results to men being absent. And I'm not trying to get all political and stuff for you, but how do you kill society? How do you control a society faster than controlling the men? I mean, I read a study a while ago that the average 25-year-old male has a test level of a 72-year-old man in today's time.
It's crazy.
Because of what is in your food and drinks and stuff kills.
We feminize it in every way possible, societal.
The government is totally, the government and society is terrified of a masculine man.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be because
that's what built this country. That's what it took to see that, and it's a threat, and those in control, regardless of. I mean, you look back behind the scenes.
You look back in history.
Behind the scenes, the ones that are in control. You go back to the Bible, man. You look at Jezebel, who had complete control over. She was the queen, but she weren't supposed to be in charge. But it was a weak man there, and she wreaked havoc on God's people back then. Yep. And caused all these problems because of one about her. But we've all done that at some time where we wanted to be about us, and that's one thing I want to point out. That there's a hunger for it now. You're seeing it more. You're seeing it maybe on college campuses, the FCA and churches, young people. I mean, we're seeing some good things happen related. The last 2 or 3 years, we've baptized a lot of people at church, and a lot of them are kids, young folks, and family members up to grandparents. That it all started maybe because the kid had a spark, wanted to go. Yep. And it's not the way it should be. But God will work in whatever, man. That's what
God's gonna make it happen regardless.
I'm gonna try not to mess it up. It's my thing. That's why I pray sometimes. Lord, just there was a song I heard way back. They weren't even that popular. It said, "Lord, move or move me. If I'm in the way, if I'm causing an issue, get me out of the way." And we get in our own way a lot of time.
We do.
I heard the term, we overanalyze and try to figure stuff out. You're not gonna figure everything out with God because there's a faith element there.
Yep.
I mean, we can go look back and we can argue from creation to evolution, all this. You can't 100% figure it out because there has to be a faith element. But he said God's given each man a measure of faith to be able to trust him.
Yep.
And it's just up to us, and he gives us the freedom to choose or not. And man, it's a lot. But I mean, we've seen it in our life. We've gone through some stuff, and I mean, we can go back. If you want to go back toward our life story, man, fertility issues. We're supposed to be this model couple that people are looking up to, and we're counseling, and all of a sudden, we're trying to have kids, and we have 2 miscarriages. Then we have trouble getting pregnant. We go to these specialists. Then my wife, they find some things, physically that she needs. She had a corrective surgery and went through that. And we went through a season of 5 years without getting pregnant, and I'm getting tested, and she's going to the doctor, and we're doing all this, that, and the other. In the meantime, she's depressed. She's gained weight. She's diabetic. She's fatty liver and stuff just because she, her feelings,
Mm-hmm.
And
the hormones are all messed up.
Her hormones are messed up, and then her emotionally was just, she was tore down and felt worthless because she couldn't do this thing. She felt she was called to be a mom, and this, that, and the other. And you're sitting there as a man, you can't fix this stuff. In the meantime, you're not really aligned where you should be during all this same time period. And then, bam, we get pregnant in 2018. It's like, okay, we've got miscarriage. And it was different. 3 miscarriages, it was different every time. And we're like, what's the deal? And we're still trying to get pregnant. And late 2018, hurricane hits here. We hit back home too. 60% of our house had to be gutted. Down the road 5 miles, 7 miles from where we were staying in is Chinquapin, North Carolina. That was all over the news because that's where the river gets flooded so bad.
Yep.
And lifelong friends lost everything. And it weren't the first time it was happening. They had a couple. Floyd got them pretty bad.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there and you're like, oh, it's stressful, and fighting with the insurance, man. I thought I was going to go to jail for murder. I mean, I told the insurance guy, you give me the check or I'll go get it. Give me your address.
Yeah.
I've torn my house out. Now you're saying you ain't putting it back. And you're the one that's,
right.
It's just stresses of life, and just couldn't figure out why is, got back together in the middle of all that. And I'm like, I didn't buy a boat until 2019. I wanted a boat for a long time. I loved to fish. Luckily, I had buddies with boats and generous buddies, and I would fish with them. And I was the guy with my thumb out. They knew if they wanted somebody good, they'd call me. I got a lot of calls from friends at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock. Hey, man, you want to go?
Absolutely.
Drop everything and go because I got the chance, Thank God for folks like that. And I had a buddy had a boat, and he didn't run it enough to keep it up, but he wanted me to go take it out and run it. He wanted me to use it as a friend, but also I would keep it up.
Right.
Because he's in a, very demanding industry, busy. And he's not always the handiest with tools and electronics. I don't know it all, but I can keep it,
keep it running.
I know if it sits up, you got problems. I
right.
don't know if there's an issue, I can figure it out.
Right.
A lot of times, or I can get somebody that can. And we're in the middle of that, trying to rebuild our house. It's torn apart. I'm renting my mom had a rental house, and so it was set up where they had to find us somewhere to stay. And it was a couple weeks till we realized the extended damage of our house after the hurricane. And then, I knew we had some damage, but we had people that were fighting for their life in our area. So it was like, I couldn't even call my insurance guy. The phone lines were down for a week.
Right.
And got back, hey, we got some problems, but we'll address it later. We didn't know how bad it was until we dug into it, and it got worse. And they're like, hey, we're backing up. Y'all come in and handle it. That way it's documented. And went through all that. But by now, everybody's starting repairs, and they're denying my claim. And we're going to fix the roof, but not the ceiling, the walls, and the floor. I was like, where are you located? We're here in eastern North Carolina, water goes down. It goes with gravity, and if it comes to the roof, it just don't miraculously,
right.
dry up before it gets to the attic.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to replace the roof and the ceiling, but not the walls and the floor. And I'm like, nah, y'all got my house out here, gutted to the bone, 65% of it. And I'm on the hook for not only that, but then y'all telling me you're going to give me $2,000 for my prorated $10,000 roof. And I'm like, I don't remember. I had a friend that was my insurance, so I drove to his place, and I don't remember driving there. I was like, you got to talk to these people, dude. I'm fixing to flip. And it was a constant battle with that. And so that was, miscarriage earlier that year. Later that year, we go through that. A lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. And by this time, the church I'm involved with, they have a, ordination through that group, denomination, whatever. I don't really push that real heavy, but I'm accountable somewhere, and I'm going to follow whatever they ask me to do. So I'm going through the process of that and make sure, because my other church I was ordained through was independent.
Right.
So if I'm going to be a part of this, I'm going to do it. You know, you're not God, but I respect your authority that He's put in place over you, and
right.
you should have authority and have me accountable. So I got no problem with that. So I'm going through that process, and it was kind of archaic. It's been vamped up since then, a little more modernized to where it's easier. I don't have to wait for the guy to make a copy out of the book to give to me and fill out papers, and they'll actually email it now. You know, that's how it had gotten to that point. But we're like that January 1st. I said something about I was wanting to go fishing, and it didn't help that my buddy Dexter, me and him went fishing out of Jacksonville one afternoon. He called me, "Hey, you want to go fishing?" Yeah, we went for a half a day after lunch and had 3 bites. I caught a 29.5-inch trout and a 4 3/4 pound trout that was 25 inches, and he caught a 16-incher. I mean, that weren't fair to him, but it just set me on fire that much more, you know.
Yeah.
I got a toad, you know, and that was pretty fun, you know. And I like to fish, loved it since I was a kid. Remember days flipping crickets at Bryson Creek, man. I look forward to that so much. And spend a lot of time doing that down here, and thankful for that time with my dad. Looking back, give me a fire because I wanted to do more. I wanted to get deeper into it. You know, anytime I get in hold of something like that, I want to go a little deeper. Same way with the hunt. My daddy liked to hunt, but he wasn't a hunter. He liked to go sit in the field and have some solitude, and he would shoot at something if it came out. Probably missed because he was too tight to set his rifle. Didn't want to waste his bullets. And he shot at deer and missed it or wounded, and I had to go track it as a kid. You know what I mean?
Right.
And fisherman, he liked to fish, but he weren't necessarily a fisherman, you know.
Right.
He's going through the cricket and whatever, and he ain't going to pay attention to what size line's on there. We just got the brim buster flipping it, and it was great. We had a good time. And I said something about, man, I'd let it have a boat. And my wife looked at me. She was like, because at this point, we're looking to go deeper into fertility specialties. And
it's expensive.
Whew. And at this time, I'd left the other job back in 2017, going back into the industry I was at, and luckily I got on a guy that trained me. He'd been there a year or so before me doing the asphalt way back when I started into it. He's working with the state now. I was at this lab. It's a central lab where they do their testing to keep everybody accountable. I stepped, there was came open there through a CEI company, which is a contracted engineering firm, where I came in to do the work as not a state employee, but was there a couple of years, picked right back up, man. I actually got a couple more certifications along the way, and opportunity come, and I stepped over to the DOT in a pretty decently high-level position just because of the relationships I'd made before. I did what I was supposed to. I kept my nose clean. I did things I was supposed to. I excelled at it. I did all that math and stuff I said that started when my brother couldn't remember his multiplication stuff. That acceleration in math really helped me because people talk about, well, I need algebra for. I got a book this thick that I'm responsible for as a DOT pavement specialist. I'm the expert on asphalt is what I'm supposed to be. The engineers call me when there's an issue. I go investigate it, kind of tell them what's going on. They don't always, their hands are in so many places, they're not specialized anywhere. I'm a specialist. I'm one step below what they call an engineer or the engineering whatever, but they call me, I investigate whether it's in the process of making it, lay down, or, during the warranty period. I got to figure out what's going on with it, and I report back to them, kind of said, here's what I feel like the problem is, here's the issue, we got protocols, this would be the penalty, this would be the warranty, and but there's 10 pages of nothing but equations I've got to know pretty much by heart. Asphalt can be real nerdy, like anything can. Yeah. There's so much to it when it comes to gravities and, there's so many wild terms you can throw out. I can make it sound like rocket science, and to an extent, it's pretty intense. But at the same time, it's bituminous. People don't even know that word. They call it tar. We don't even have tar anymore. Right. It's a petroleum byproduct that he used to make, the whole asphalt together. Yeah. Liquid asphalt cement is what they call it. And there's so much of that, and so much crushed stone, and so much recycled asphalt, so much aggregate of different kinds. But in all that, we got to check it out. So I wound up back in that industry, and all of a sudden this opportunity comes up, and the guy that's doing the hiring, I knew him 30 years ago, and we worked together. 20-some years ago, and we worked together. I knew the guys that teach certification courses. They'd been regionally over us, and I always did what I was supposed to do and keep your nose clean and make sure my stuff was going to be right. The test might be bad, but it was tested properly. Right. The protocols, that OCD and finding the problems, and that works great in asphalt. Don't try it in your marriage. When you get married at 31, and your job for the last 7, 8 years has been finding problems and correcting them, that don't work in a marriage. If any of you guys are wondering.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Young and about to get married. Yeah, women, y'all ain't changing him. He ain't changing. Y'all will change over time as two become one, but it won't because you're intentional about it. You'll balance one another out. But if you're marrying the person you're marrying, not somebody in your fantasy land that you think they're going to become when you fix them. So,
you ain't fixing nobody.
I didn't have much trouble with that, but I'm very OCD, and I point things out. And my wife reminds me, thank you very much for that information. Sometimes I'm like, see that early on. You're that's job and this is home. This is marriage.
Marriage is tough, man.
It is. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful things.
It is
a great gift from God, man.
It is, but it's a tough. I mean,
it's tough.
You can barely get along with yourself half the time, and then you throw somebody else in the equation that you're with all the time. Like it's just like. It wasn't as hard for me because, I did a lot of dating and had a few serious relationships before. I mean, I got married when I was 32. But it's just, my wife is a little bit younger. I think I was like her second serious relationship. So it was a little bit different for her, but she's so easygoing. But it's interesting with your story, man, with all the stuff you've been through. And how it shaped you, who you in today. I want to, because we were talking about men earlier, I wanted to ask you, because I always preach on men. That's one reason I do this podcast is men need to come together more and talk and get their emotions out, their opinions on things and talk and have other men listen. Why do you think most men struggle with that, and why they struggle with dealing with grief and struggle and open up to other men?
I think a lot of the times we've been taught that it's your less of a man if you show emotion. Because there's times, and I tell people, young couples, we're counseling and going through, later on having a stillborn son. Mm-hmm. You go from supposed to be having a shower to decorate the nursery to a couple weeks before then. When you're supposed to turn that 30-week corner.
But you're supposed to be safe.
30 weeks and 4 days, the heartbeat's not there. And that cut, because you're making all these plans. You got to shower.
Yeah, that's on a different level.
It's a little boy, and you got to buy a casket. I'm telling you, I can be real and raw with people, and I say, feelings are important. My emotions. I mean, I feel emotions welling up right now, but I'm so thankful at the same time because I know I've been to some places, and I know it didn't kill me, and had it had because I'm in Christ, had that taken me down. If the grief had killed me and broke my heart to where I died, I'm settled for eternity. I mean, so
it's true.
And Paul said it, whether to live as Christ to die as gain. If I live, I'm going to live for him. My life's not my own. I was bought with a price. So I grew a lot in that. And it was one of the absolute worst things. I hope nobody ever has to go through. I'm going to be there for others that can do that. And I've reached out to some folks that we probably both know mutually. I always make it a point to reach out to the man because we're taught we're supposed to suppress our emotions, and that's fine because I tell them, we both can't be crazy at the same time. Can't. When all that took place, man, I lost it for a few minutes, but then I've got to shoulder this thing.
Yep.
Because not only is my wife going through it with a different set of emotions and hormones, but her body is still carrying this child, and she's got to deliver him. And all that, I mean, it was tough, man. It was rock bottom again. And it's like, and everybody's like, well, I don't understand why this is happening because the Lord said it rains on the just and the unjust. The Bible said David was a man after God's own heart. And I share this with folks, and I hope somebody's listening that's gone through it, and they're just feeling despairing, And in 2 Samuel, I think, chapter 11 or 12, David's had his problems, Mm-hmm. Well, he and Bathsheba, who, after they went and did their thing, well, they wound up having a child on the way. Child's born, but it's very sick. David's, a little unhinged. He's king. What he said goes. If he said the word, man died. If he said the word, they lived. He had that power. And he was a pretty messed up dude for the most part, but he still was called a man after God's own heart. And here he is in this child's sick. And then there he goes in the depths, blaming himself, And it says he repented and he was down in sackcloth and ashes, pretty much fasting. He didn't eat. He didn't get up and didn't attend to nothing. And that child died. And the guys, his inner circle of men were scared to go tell him because he could have killed them all and been justified in it because he was king. Mm-hmm. They were scared to tell him what had happened. remember the doctor being a little shook up when he had to tell me, because I'm a big dude and I'm there, and I fell on my knee. I wielded I'm going to tell you, I wielded, dude.
Yeah.
Hit the floor and cried out. And I didn't understand it, but it says in that scripture that they come in and told him. He was like, he didn't tell him. He looked at him. He said, I can tell by your countenance pretty much. I misquote it, but was the child dead? And they were like, yeah, he died. Said he got up, and he cleaned himself up. He washed himself. He anointed himself, cleaned himself up, fixed his hair, put himself together, got some food. They were like, what's going on? What's the deal? While the child was, there was still hope. He's like, he said, yeah. He said, well, while the child was alive but sick, it was hope that, but now that he's dead, I can't bring him back to me, but I can go to him.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Powerful.
True for him. It's true for us.
Powerful.
The only way you can do that is through what Jesus Christ offers us in salvation and being that reunited. And I'm fine with that. But I try to share that. And you say we press our emotions because we're taught it's what you're supposed to do as a man.
Amen.
But I want to give that word of encouragement, man. It's tough to do something. It's tough to deal with. But I deal with people when I try to. Fishing partner Corey,
mm-hmm.
I don't tell his business. It happened to them 7 months before at full term. We'd known each other for years, most of our lives. I'd say we went to school together. Went to the same church for a season there where his mom was like the music leader and worship leader.
Mm-hmm.
And, we weren't super close. We knew each other. We were friendly. But he reached out to me. And right after it happened was 2020 and COVID hit. Luckily, my wife worked in like a healthcare field, so she'd go back to work. She stayed home a few weeks. We'd done some healing, got our feet back from under. My work was limited in certain ways, as far as contact, some of our testing. But I was home a lot, and only going out when I had to, because so I'll insert the protocol. I mean, this happened February 17th. I think the end of March they shut everything down pretty much. So we had a little bit of time there, and so my wife's going to work. That's keeping her kind of busy. I'm still kind of coping, but the year before we had to buy a boat during all that. Okay, before all this happened, and I think we found we were pregnant like the first month the payment was due. I bought it over Red Epic, and I got a great deal on it. I think the Lord knew I needed it. Me and my wife talked about it the year before while our house was still dry. I said, man, let's have a boat. She was like, why don't you get one? I was like, well, we got too much. Because she said, I'm afraid we're going to look back and with a lot of regret one day if you don't, take a chance. I said, well, I don't feel right doing it. She was like, no, I think maybe what's needed. Maybe we need to relax and take a breath. And I'd like to have a boat too. So we'll get our house back together. I find this great deal on this boat and run to Georgia and buy it for a super deal. I rescued it from a bad breakup from a couple that never got married but had it together type of thing. They just wanted to get rid of it, 10, 12 hours on it. And but the next year when all this happened, I had my boat. I spent a lot of days not catching fish, a lot of days learning about fishing, a lot of days catching nice fish. But she's at work, I'm home. If it was a little bit rainy, all our work's called off, so you got to take advantage. And I'd shoot down New Bern, Orient, wherever. I'd shoot down and go fishing. And but Corey had gone through that, and I wasn't there for him. I knew each other, knew it happened, but I didn't know how to deal with stuff like that. Even being in ministry and stuff, I never dealt with that form of grief. I lost a dad, lost loved ones, lost friends, but that was different, man. Yeah. I just couldn't. It's one of those things you don't know how to deal with, and nobody does. But he was teaching school, and of course they were shut down. Even if they were shut down, he would take his planning period and he would go right out, and back then he smoked, and he would like drive around the neighborhood and get off campus, and maybe you'd get him a biscuit or something. It was an odd time. Right. But he said he rode by 3 or 4 times on my truck there and just couldn't bring himself to stop. And that's when we started fishing together. He come by and just wanted to tell me, hey, everybody pats you on the back. What anything? He said, this sucks. This sucks. I know it sucks because I've walked it. I'm not going to deny that it sucks and that it sucks bad.
Yeah.
He said, but I want you to know, I love you, man. I'm here for you. We started fishing some a little bit then. Well, I think it was the same year Redfish Madness started.
Mm-hmm.
I become friends with Mike Mattis, got to know each other. But he's like, hey, man, fish a tournament. He named that boat Red Zeppelin. He saw it one day and called me. He got my number from somebody. He's like, are you in Sun's? I was like, yeah. He's like, I thought I saw you, man. I saw the Red Zeppelin. So that's why I called Team Red Zeppelin, because he named it that.
Yeah.
And even before I went to first tournament, he signed us up as Team Red Zeppelin because he's a rock fan. You know, the red boat, red fish.
Yeah.
And I was like, you want to fish it together? He's like, yeah. Here he is. You know, he teaches school. Here I am, a DOT guy, live an hour from the coast. And like, let's go fish this redfish tournament. Didn't know much about fishing the marsh. We'd fished around there a little bit, but I'm not going out of the marsh. I'm not built for that. I don't have a boat built for that. I'm too big to be on a little boat. And we grew up fishing the river a lot, and over the years fishing the river, and it's one of the toughest places in the world to fish. And hey, man, let's go have fun. We free fished, and first tournament he caught a 26 3/4, 15 minutes to go. First bite we'd had all day, or first keeper. It was good if you fish hard, only weigh in one fish. But hey, man, we weren't there to prove nothing. There was brotherhood built there, and then we started doing the redfish series. And then last year, of course, we did this. We done some other tournaments together, but other than when my boat tore up, that's the only time we had gone without weighing 2 fish in those tournaments. We competed, finished 3rd or 4th in the points one year. We're fishing against guys that live down there and do it for a living. 2 bites, you don't ever know what you're going to do. We placed as high as 3rd and 1 big fish, and you know we've had fun. But there was a lot of healing took place on that boat.
That's what fishing is
all about. That's why fishing is really important to me, because it's so much more beyond the tournament. I like the tournaments for the camaraderie.
Me
I
too.
like to do well. Got my butt kicked the other week. You know what I did? I sat there and I said, man, y'all were due one, man. I got it, won it. Jeffrey, I've known him most of my life. Y'all were due one, man. Congratulations, man. Tickled for you.
Yep.
Man, there's so much more to this world, because you've been through things like buying a casket that's real small. And your lifelong friend you went to kindergarten with, who works at the funeral home, has to come get him from the hospital, and a different perspective comes.
Yeah.
And the sweetness of this life comes. And through that, they're like, hey, hold it together. I was scheduled to preach at a church I'd never been to. His funeral was on Wednesday. I was scheduled to preach that Sunday. My wife's like, I can't go with you. I said, I don't want you to. You're good. I said, I've got to go do this. I had a message burning on my heart, dude. You know. I said, I need to. And I did. It was down toward Arapahoe, back roads back there, you know. I was on the list because I was on the perspective, you know, going through this process. And it was Isaiah 6. It said, in the year King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord high and lifted up. And for a man, Isaiah, that was a prophet, called to be a prophet. Uzziah was one of the longest reigning kings. Things were very prosperous. Life was really good.
Right.
And he had some problems. He had to co-rule with his son. He wound up getting leprosy because of some disobedience. But still, he was very well loved. And things were going really smooth in life for the folks he ruled, because he had his faults, but for the most part, he followed after the Lord. And it was a time of prosperity for everybody. Time of good times, you know. Not a lot of attacks, not a lot of oppression. He was the second longest ruling king.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time of stability, man.
Yep. And
here this guy that's, you know, new king's coming. It's his son, but you know how that happens a lot of times, you know. It flips.
Yep.
So here's Isaiah, called of God to be a prophet. King Uzziah died, and it was a time of just scared uncertainty. His world had been shaken to where he didn't know because if you said something wrong against the king, you have you killed. Is this next king, you know, how's this going to work out? It was a time where his world was turned upside down. One of the most important people in his life died. And when that happened, he saw the vision of God, that God was high and lifted up on the throne. His train filled the temple. These angels encompassed that you know, just cried, holy. Just because he was in the circumstances he was going through, it didn't change who God was. His throne is truth. He's not up for election or recall or impeachment. There's something solid, like I talked about in those Legos earlier.
Yeah. You
can build something pretty, but if the foundation ain't right, it ain't going to stand, man. It's not. And I can say I grew closer to God through the worst of circumstances.
That's when you build your foundation.
Man, I was going fishing one day, and I hate to get too sappy with you, man, but I was driving down. I was just out of Comfort on 41, and a song come on called The Goodness of God. It was getting popular back then. I don't ever remember hearing it before that. Dude, God's presence really like.
The guy works
He was with me before. He was with me now. I almost had to pull over, dude. I could hardly drive. It was just so real. It was like, I got you.
Yeah. God works through me, really through music a lot.
Man, I love music's an awesome thing, and it's meant for. It's what it's meant for. You know, It was corrupted from the beginning. You know, it says that if you take the Satan or Lucifer or whatever, he was pretty much a fallen angel that was pretty much, you know, crown and jewels. You know, they compare him to the serpent. You know, they say the serpent, but you think about what does a snake look like in the grass? You see the different shape. It said he was covered with jewels and stuff, and the glory of God shined reflected back off of him. And that's what we're supposed to do, reflect the glory of God with our gifts or whatever he's given us. But he became puffed up and said, look who I am. I'm going to be like that. And anything that anybody brings to us gets us to try to put ourselves above God or to be God or be the most important thing in the universe. And that's what the distractions, that's where they come in. But man, that's why, going back to fishing, that's why it's important to me, because there's a lot of healing took place to me on that boat.
Yep.
A lot of healing, learned a lot of fishing, relationship with me and Corey grew. I'm fishing with a lot of other people. I can name a lot of people who've been influential. I try to learn from everybody. Like I said, if you're catching them, I want to know how and why I'm not. It might be your day, but sometimes your cadence might be a quarter-second difference. These trout run us crazy, dude.
Oh,
they got a brain that's this big. It's like turkey. It's turkey season right now. I'm not huge into it, but for a couple of years there, man, I went after hard turkey hunting, and I'm like, this thing's got the brain the size of a nickel.
Smartest.
And I'm out here crawling on my belly through a pasture, trying to sneak up on him. He I can take a little stick and rub it with another stick, and he answers it, but he's getting the best of me, and it's like that love-hate thing, man.
Trout's something else, man. Trout, people.
I love it all, but
trout is just.
But I learned a lot about trout fishing because I wanted to be on the water, and I was patient, and I tried different stuff and did different stuff, and I just think it improved my fishing during that time. But it was also, I was healing, going back to men. Mm-hmm. We don't express that because we've been taught not to. That's women stuff, that sissy stuff. Read that Bible. It's full of broken people who had to come to a place of crying out to God. And there was a story that tells us we need other people. We're not on an island. I know you said you don't go to church. And I'm not challenging you. I'm just saying you got to have that group, that faith group, regardless of what you call it. The church is a people. It's not a place. We've made it a place and a time and an event, and it's never been to be that. We got a building we meet at to get orders from headquarters. Me as a minister, there's a list of things that we're supposed to do. I'm supposed to lift you up. I'm supposed to correct you. I'm supposed to encourage you. I'm supposed to equip you to go out and be the church the rest of the week, to go out and minister to other people. You don't come to church on Sunday to seek God. You come there to commune with other believers. It ain't got to be on Sunday. I know churches that meet, they have services several nights a week. Sometimes when we live close to the beach, a lot of people, they have a Thursday night service, because
they do.
The whole Sabbath Sunday. We do it because it's Resurrection Day, but man, we need to be doing it every day. It's not a box we check. We get into dichotomy. I've been guilty of it. I lived like this a long time. Here's church David, and here's work David, and here's husband David. And no, Christ is the umbrella that's supposed to engulf all of that. So I used to have a lot of good ideas. I want Jesus to put his stamp of approval. And a lot of people that are Christians or claim to be Christians, we live that way. We want to do something. We want God to put his stamp of approval. We'll put a Bible verse with our whatever, or we'll put the fish symbol. And we want Jesus to bless our good idea. And sometimes he does, and he has, but sometimes if you let the master Lego builder put that thing, all those parts together, it's a lot better than what I could ever do. It's a lot better than what I could ever do.
Absolutely, you can.
Still figuring it. I ain't going to. Still trying to figure it. That's another thing when I said about grace. We try to find and nitpick anything within the church or a Christian, and I try to walk as good as I can, man, but I come up way short a lot, and that's no excuse. I'm supposed to be trying to set a standard to be a leader because God's called me to be that. He's called me to follow after Christ. And in doing that, I'm not going to be perfect, but that's not an excuse for not trying to keep myself as aligned as possible. And in doing so, if people can, and the enemy works this way, if we can get that one little thing off that where I can accuse you, or you step out, or I disagree with it, or you do something, or you stumble in your walk, I can say, see, you ain't no better. I ain't no better than anybody. And it's not about being better than one another. It's about us. It's about a God that loves us, and regardless of how bad or how rotten we could be, the stuff people don't know about, your spouse don't even know about, the deep thoughts, the things we think. Amen. He knows it all, and you know what he did? He sent his only son to live perfect, and he had poured out the wrath that he was supposed to pour out on sin onto him in my place. Mm-hmm. I hate to get sappy on you. I wouldn't trade my son for none of you. You know what I'm saying? If somebody had your child kidnapped, you would it wouldn't be no question.
Absolutely.
He gave his only begotten son. That's what I said. And a saying that I don't know, I probably didn't come up with it. People say, how'd you manage all that? I said, well, life happens. You can get better and you can get bitter. I know a lot of bitter people.
And a lot of people that are bitter, you can point at it and they have a reason.
You can find the point.
They have a reason why. But they just chose that then to get better. Yeah. And
it's tough, man.
It's
a struggle, and we'll struggle with it. But one day it'll. I like what I hate to keep interrupting you, man. But when you go to Revelation, he says one day he's going to wipe away every tear for once and for all, and there'll be no more death, no more sickness, no more pain, no more dying. He will be our God. We'll be His people. We'll live in. There'll be a new heaven and a new earth, and all this corruption and mess that we see around us that.
It drives you crazy. It's gone.
It's not going to be there. It's going to be uninhibited the way He intended it. He wanted that for us, but also He knew us before He formed us in our mother's wombs. It said He knew us, and He knew I'd struggle. He knew the things I'd do. But He said from the foundation, Jesus Christ would come, because He didn't want a bunch of robots. He's got angels that cry how holy He is 24/7.
Yep.
He wanted somebody with a consciousness to choose Him.
Yep. And
want that relationship. And if you don't want it, you ain't got to have it.
You don't?
He gives you everything you want. You can have an eternity apart from Him. That's the
He don't force you.
Biggest part of hell ain't the flames and stuff they talk about. And I think it's a literal place in the Bible Jesus referenced it. But at the same time, it's that eternal separation where there's no grace. We're offered so much grace right now we don't even realize. We're looked at her so much. Like you said, there's times where I wanted to end it, but for some reason,
just can't.
I weren't man enough to have the balls to do it.
You wasn't.
You know what I'm saying?
It's
like going back to what Joe B. Martin. People are needing men, and they're needing people to be real with them. That's why I told you on that paper, I'll be real and raw with you, because people need it.
People do need it. And that's the whole point of this whole show is to people can hear the raw. And I want to close with this, Big Dave. If somebody's life is out of order, they're struggling, they're just out of sort in a ditch, what's the number one thing they fix first?
They need to pursue God. And saying that's a broad term. It's very cliche. If you want to know Christ, it says in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God, and the Word became flesh. If you want to know Jesus, you need to know His Word. You can try to do everything else in life when it comes to Christ. You can pray. You can go to church. You try to open the Bible and really study it, not just read a few things and say, I read 12 words a day. If you go seek Him, that'll be interrupted more than anything else, because that's where you hear His voice and get to know Him. That's a good start, but when we're in that situation, we got to cry out for help. Mm-hmm. And know there's people like me and you and others around me. There's nothing more we could do, because we've been in that ditch before. Mm-hmm. We've walked that trail. Let me help you out of it. And that's what I said. You need to disciple people. We need to. Don't feel like you got to do it by yourself. That's why God calls it into a faith community. That's what the church is supposed to be. More so than what it's become. I've got my. But it's made out of people, and people are going to disappoint you. And if you go to church, you're going to be disappointed. The pastors are going to disappoint you. There's a lot of them that fall from grace because they've put this stigma on them where they get so pressured down where they don't have an outlet, and all of a sudden they wind up in the ditch too.
Well, they feel like they have to be perfect. They have to be Jesus.
And it's tough. It's tough because there's a lot, and we're going to be held to. The Bible says we'll be judged at a higher standard, and that's fine. But at the same time, if I can be real and raw with somebody, I'll get down in the ditch with you. We got you need to reach out and have somebody that can guide you. Find somebody that's close to God. Whenever, if I get in a situation, I need somebody to pray for me. There's certain people that come to mind because they're close. Yeah. And say they're perfect, but I know they know how to get that one guy I talked about. And I'll say his name, Don Reed. Man, he's a missionary, and he called me out a couple times. He'll send me a text every now and again. Man, out of the blue, and it'll be something I'm struggling with, but dealing with, kind of in one of those things. I'll just get a random text from him early in the morning, and that tells me he's been up, he's been praying. Maybe the Lord's revealed something to him to speak a word and do so, and that's amazing. And God does that, but we got to reach out to one another. We got to be willing, But if we're so busy trying to be, the perfect employee, the perfect business owner, the perfect husband, the perfect father, we're trying to be all this stuff so much that we're so busy. We walk past people every day that's in that situation that's probably crying out, and we'll say, I'll pray for you. or they'll say it on Facebook and we'll give it to praying hands and ain't thought more about it. But
well, that's what I was going to say. Is my advice to everybody is, if you have a feeling on your heart, something tugging your heart to reach out to somebody, that's what you better be doing.
Yeah, reach out.
Even if it's, because I've had to do it to people that I might not really like, but God put it on my heart that they needed me to reach out. It's weird but I've learned over, especially last year's been a big struggle for me, mentally, physically, all of it. But God taught me that, He's always talking to you and showing you the way. Either you can listen and get on board, or He will force you, especially if you have a special call in your life. Like, He will force you to get on board. And that's where I was at. Like, it literally just threw me down in a ditch. So, like, just anybody listen, man, like, you have to reach out to those people, because people need it. I've needed it. I still need it. Like you said, you have certain people that text you randomly. I have the same thing, and it comes from like, people don't even know, the time or what you were thinking in that moment, and you get that text, and it's powerful, and that's all God. I mean, you can't even explain why somebody just messaged you a certain thing in that moment.
We have an unlimited, all-powerful God, but He works through people. He made everything out of a vacuum at once, and since then He's been working in and through people. Well, if we don't see God working, is it because we're not available for Him to work through us? Because He's not working. He'll speak to people in certain ways, and I 100% believe that. But at times, if we're not available, He's not going. He's a gentleman. He's not forcing Himself on anybody.
No.
You think about how the correlation in the Bible talks about we're the bride of Christ, and He woos us and brings. He's not forcing Himself on nobody. He's a gentleman. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of innuendos in the Bible to where, because it speaks to us, and of all things, men plainly, when it comes to that type of thing, we can understand that language. So sometimes you got to get real plain with people where you might not be good for the pulpit on Sunday morning, but you can pull it out of Scripture. He's not forcing Himself. He's going to love you till you're annoyed. People that maybe dating and getting married because him or her just pursued that other person to the point that it's like they gave up. Mm-hmm. It says He pursues us,
and He does.
And then we look back, hindsight, and we see all those building blocks coming. You look back and see, man, that God's hand was in that. God's hand was, it don't always make sense. And I don't like to make the religious jargon or the cliches as much, but man, it's, like I say, I don't wear a tie a whole lot. I'm not. There's that cliche where I'm supposed, I fix my hair for the podcast, but I don't have this perfect partner, and then that's fine if people do that. Yeah. That's a part of their worship.
Absolutely.
But when it becomes a form and a fashion, and not us lost people crying out to the God of the universe and Him doing a work in us, we've missed it somehow. We've made it into something built in our image, just like the Old Testament when Moses went up on the mountain, and the rest of the crowd was like, well, He's not coming back. We're going to form this God out of this golden calf, and we want God to be manipulated into what we want Him and what we can change Him to be. And society tries to do that. This is happening in churches right now. They're trying to change who He is or what He is. They're trying to manipulate Him to what they want Him to be. And we all have got a little bit of that in us. But that's not who He is. That's not who we formed in fashion. He's so much bigger than that. It's like trout fishing. I feel like I know a lot, but the more I know, the less I realize I do know. And it's the same thing with God and His goodness, His grace, and His powerfulness, and how He works. I think I've got Him figured out. And He's so much more than my finite brain could ever imagine. And He'll reveal Himself in new ways. Jesus healed people. He would heal a blind person. One of them, he touches them. One of them, He speaks to them. One of them, He rubs dirt in their eyes, mud in their eyes, and tells them to go wash in this pool or do that. He did it different every time just to show that
you're not figuring Him out.
It weren't the method. It was the man of Jesus Christ.
Correct.
And God's only Son that could do that. I'm like, wow. You step back and look at it.
Powerful. Well, this has been fun.
Man, I feel like I ramble a lot on you, man.
Oh, man, you good, man.
If you want
that's
back,
what it's all about.
If you have me back sometime, we'll talk more about fishing and other stuff. And
life,
man. I'll be here.
Well, that's why, part of that intake is if you're interested in coming back, because a lot of times there's so much to talk about. Yeah. And, sometimes you just got to separate. I think every guest that we've had has been it's been that. I think every single one of them is going to be invited back.
I can talk almost as much as Brian Saunders. I love Brian, man. Me and him got on the boat a while back together.
Good luck with that.
And we were on there, and I said, well, we don't talk much, but there was some conversation had, and he's a good dude.
I love Brian Saunders. Yeah, Brian, it's funny, man. My wife and her family's known him forever, and I met him through fishing and stuff. But he's a good man.
Well, I saw he played football at ECU 10 years before I did. Never crossed paths. We probably crossed paths there and didn't realize it because I was, so I was a player. I was in uniform on the sideline when he come to the. Yeah. But then, later I'm getting more into fishing and I see this. Then I realized he played. I ran into him at the boat ramp. I was going fishing with a buddy. I didn't have a boat in him. We got into a conversation and it weren't long. We exchanged numbers and I felt like I've known him my whole life. But just a lot of good people in the fishing community. I can go on a whole episode about that.
Oh, it is, and that's what I've gotten.
A lot of good people, man.
It is. I love a lot of them, and we've had a lot on this show so far for a reason because they're just good people. Yeah. And they and a lot of them have the same struggle, which has been kind of interesting.
One thing I'll say, if you said something about the person that ditch, I'm on Facebook. I don't do a lot of the other stuff because I'm not fancy and don't have time with social media. My job's pretty much 24-hour day job. We got stuff going night and day. I'm pretty much got to be available by phone and get emails constantly throughout but I doom scroll a little bit, but I'll get on there, and if you need to reach out to me on Facebook, if you need to have that conversation, if you need to reach out to me, we'll talk. I don't mind because, I remember the people that were dropping hints on me during I was in that time. There were certain people I can point back to, my brother being one. He had faith experience and come to faith, and his wife, and then other folks that I'd crossed paths with just randomly popped up, and would say, and I'm like, this is weird. I honestly went to church to appease them, to a revival service, and sit over in the corner where Jesus couldn't see me, and that way I could say, I came, y'all. Before it was over with, this 6'8", 360-pound spring steel sex appeal was melted in a puddle at the altar.
Yep.
Cowboy boots on. I was a bad dude. Matter of fact, there was a girl supposed to be going there. I kind of liked her or something, probably. I don't even remember her name now. But, you go to kind of appease the brother and see the, and then, and the next thing I know, it's like that dude's talking right to me. I won't even look up at him. He looked over there in that little corner I was sitting in. I actually sat at the side room in the little church, man. It was like he was telling me everything. It was like, man, I was like, look, don't look up, don't look up. Next thing I know, man, I was like, I got to give it up. And not just, not that I hadn't said I love Jesus or said the Lord. I had to give it up. I had to give my life to him at that point. It wasn't just a concept. And it's been a wild ride since then, January of '98. But and I've messed it up bad. But His grace is sufficient. Well, so if you need to reach out to me, tell people to reach out, dude. You reach out to me anytime, man.
Please do. Please do to both of us. Reach out. Hey, anytime you want to go fishing, reach out. I'm always looking for somebody to go fishing with.
I got after that June tournament, I'll have about 2 or 3 months where, I like to carry people that don't go much. They don't get a chance to go.
Me too.
If they, if you just want to go out, but if you need a conversation, man, I'll reach out.
Awesome. Well, it's been great having you, man. We're definitely going to schedule another one. We'll dig a little bit more into some fishing and stuff like that on the next one, but I've loved it. It's been a great conversation. And we'll talk to everybody next time.
God bless.
God bless.